Okay, so we're calling the meeting order at 5:31.
My bad, hold on.
Echoes.
Echo.
The speakers are off. We're gonna go into executive session. And then we're gonna come back.
Okay, so anyways, we're in session. We have 4 members. What?
There's a really loud echo.
I know, it's gonna go away in a minute. It's gone. Okay, so item number 1, we have an executive session.
The motion?
Yes, please.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding contract negotiation would put the board at substantial disadvantage because the school board is at risk, excuse me, of negotiating disadvantage if discussed in public.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mark and a second by Laura. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Laura, good.
Aye.
Appears to be a unanimous decision in the affirmative. We're actually all live, it is.
I make a motion for the board to enter executive session under Title I, Section 313 of the Vermont Statutes, Legal Consultation 313A1.
So Mark made the motion, Dwight seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's a unanimous decision. Okay, so we're back live. We came out of executive session by unanimous consent. I would say at 5:40 because that's what time it is. So I'd like to read a letter. Dear Mr. Werner, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from my position as principal of the Dover School. I will continue for the remainder of the school year and will be glad to help with whatever transition is decided upon. I have accepted a position with the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, and I am happy to remain a resource to the new administration and the board as needed for the foreseeable future. I wish I could have given more notice, but alas, the timing would not cooperate. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve the students, families, and staff of the River Valley Unified School District, specifically the Dover School. Wishing you all a smooth transition. Sincerely, Matt Martin. Matt, I gotta tell you that it was an amazing thing you did coming into a school that had a course and an action and a plan, and into a building that was predetermined before you came here, and to follow through and be so so engulfed by it, so supportive and of all the staff and the projects. That's not something that just anybody can do, and I appreciate it. I can speak a little bit more about you because we've got a little more history than I do with Tammy, but you both are sorely going to be missed. So our dynamic duo is fading off into the sunset. But can I say where you're going? Is it okay?
Oh, yeah.
So Matt will not be going as far away as Tammy. He's going to be working in Wyndham Central for doing technology. So he's gone back to where he came before us. So then he'll be going back to college after that, and then, or Leland and Gray College, and then become a student at Leland and Gray again. So Matt, we wish you the best. It's neat to get younger instead of older, isn't it?
You find out how, yeah.
So thank you very much. So we're going to move into the agenda. We have a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to ask that everybody be a little patient with us. Ma'am, the lady taking minutes is not
Meredith is on.
Meredith is on TV. So can you just give us your name, because she needs to record you for being in the audience.
Beth Schoenfeld.
Thank you, Beth. Meredith, did you get that?
I did not.
Oh, it's Beth?
Beth Schoenfeld.
Okay, I'm not even going to try that.
Schoenfeld.
Schoenfeld.
And then Dana needs to add her last name.
Oh, and Dana, I'm not sure who Dana is,
I'm going so Reese.
That's
but
what I
Dana,
was
can you
going to.
please just give us your last name so that we have that?
It is Sorice, S-O-R-I-C-E.
Okay, we would hate to assume. It's gotten us in trouble in the past.
You know what? I'm sorry. I've got the phone. I don't know how to use the
No,
Zoom on the phone.
that's fine. We know who you be now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay, so hey, next thing is additions or deletions to the agenda. So under new business, I would just like to add at the end of new business, at the end of new business that we just have a brief discussion about moving forward with our administration. And then Laura, you had something?
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, I have to leave at 7:30.
Yeah.
So I will join remotely after that time.
Okay, is there anybody else? Seeing none, I'll go to members of the public. Since you're live, we'll let you go first.
Okay. So I came tonight because I feel like first of all, I don't know how to talk about this, so just excuse me if I'm not speaking properly, but I wanted to present an article for us to vote on at the annual meeting. So the one that has been approved in Winhall, Taconic and Green about keeping school choice. Are you aware of that?
Do you have something in writing for us?
I have a copy of it here, which unfortunately my printer, I wanted to
Okay.
print it out.
Can she email that to one of you folks? Can you print it so that we can see it?
Oh, yeah.
And
So let me do this though,
Yeah.
because you don't have a copy of it, I'm gonna skip over you for a minute.
okay.
Can you email it to Matt possibly? Matt, is that?
Yeah, perfect.
And then, once it's printed, we can look at it.
But I would say, yeah, we can.
Well, then,
talk about
we
it.
can't have a discussion about something I can't see.
Okay, let me see here.
Okay, so if you do that, we're not trying to blow you off, we're just trying to be efficient. So, where do I go? Alan, Dana, Kevin and Tricia, Stephanie, Sean, you're all public. Do you have anything for us?
Nothing from Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Nope, nothing from Dana.
Stephanie, Kevin, Tricia, or Sean?
Nothing from Kevin and Tricia.
Thank you, folks. Sean and Stephanie.
Nothing from Steph.
Nothing from Steph and Sean, nothing from you? Is that Sean?
It's Mrs. Munns, but yes, we're both.
Mrs. Munns. Well, thank you, Mrs. Munns. How's the little guy?
He's good, he's having dinner right now.
Cool. Okay, so we'll get back to you in a little bit. So as soon as we get that we can look at, then we'll let you talk about that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So members of the staff, Lori, you're here for the annual report. Bob, do you want to just, I think this is your first River Valley meeting. We can take 2 minutes and there you go, he went up there. Just say hi. So Bob is our new superintendent in waiting. Alas, he's not there yet, but will be shortly.
Alas, indeed. Yeah, so I've just been starting to make the rounds a little bit, some of the board meetings to kind of just introduce myself, say hello, and get to know some of the people. And obviously with what's going on with you guys with Matt and Tammy, I figured it's a good opportunity to make an appearance. So I'm gonna listen in on that conversation later on and yeah, just kind of hang out and say hello.
Hey, thank you, Bob. I'm going to move on to old business. Well, I can't because Mark isn't here, right?
No.
No, Mark Key.
Our guest is not here.
Okay, transportation is
We're meeting,
does somebody have, hey, can I borrow your pens?
You betcha.
I want the nice one. Man. Okay, so transportation is on hold, reserve fund discussion. Lori just went, oh, no, Lori's down there. Hi, Lori, nice shirt.
There I am.
Bright red, I see you well.
Yeah. So we were talking about, at the last meeting, we talked about the budget and you all approved a budget, but not really get to the capital plan. And we had made a director of operations and I had made a suggestion of recommendation of $100,000 for the capital building fund, and then $75,000 for the transportation fund. And I do have it up. I can put it up on my screen.
Matt, can she share? Matt's running. Hang on.
Okay. Sorry.
No, we're running them ragged.
So there was supposed to be some discussion tonight about if you wanted to go with that recommendation and where it was going to come from as it pertains to the article.
Okay, so the one thing I'd like to see is, I'd like to see that chart that shows us, you know, here's what we've got, here's what we raised. That's not in the book, is it?
It's not yet in the book because I didn't know what numbers to put in there yet.
Okay. Can you bring it up if he shares with you so we can, let's start with the building fund first.
Okay. I just need permission.
Yeah, he just did it.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
When's Greg coming?
Okay, can everybody see the grids there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what was presented to you last time in the last board meeting, which we didn't really get a chance to discuss in any depth. But this is basically your capital building fund, where you're starting at, and a recommendation for fiscal year 24 of $100,000 to be either raised by taxes outside of the budget or to be moved from the reserve funds that you have and to put into here. And then in the fleet management, it's the same thing. I know we've talked about the tractor possibly being pushed off a year or two, but we do think that you will have another bus that'll be coming up in a couple of years that you'll need to be funding.
Yeah, this one only goes out to 32 though. I thought we did 10 years.
No, this is the one we've been working on for the last couple of years.
Yeah, but every year we're supposed to add one on the far end and deduct one on the low end.
Okay. Nope, this is what I have.
Okay. So, and that the $100,000 that we're projecting to spend, 111, are we gonna, so for the book, can we drop 22 and 23 because they've already been voted on, and can we just go out 2 more years?
Sure. Not a problem.
And then,
I can do that for the book.
yeah, and then and you don't have to fill them in now, but I think that's important because we've always kind of done 10 years out.
Okay.
And then we're just gonna, last year you had like a list underneath of what the $111,000 worth of expenditures is.
Yep. Yep, we can do that too. That's gonna be this grid right here. I think this is what we printed last year.
Okay. So for FY '24,
There's your 111, and it's, so this was all in your packet last time. It
Yeah.
had all the detail on it. So we have $36,000 new boiler at Wardsboro being replaced. And that's pretty much it at Wardsboro. And then exterior paint and the cabinet heaters here. They're gonna do the cabinet heaters a year early.
okay, so on the expenditures, does anybody have any issues with that? I know awards where you've had issues with your boiler, correct? So that's a good thing. Cabinet heaters, why are those going, Matt?
Well, it seems some of them are reaching the end of their life, bearings, fans, motors. We've replaced a lot of those parts in the last year or two.
There's somebody trying to get into.
Should I just go ahead and admit them?
Got it.
And then, so is that all the cabinet heaters just in the old building or both sides?
It's been in both locations.
Is it all of them or just some of them?
They seem to be,
Well, no, the 36,000, is that to do
Oh,
them all or is it to do some?
I don't think that's all, I think that's just some.
63, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
The 36 is the boiler.
Right, the boiler.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think it's just some, Rich, not all.
So, do you know how many?
I don't, sorry.
Okay.
Maybe we can check with Greg.
Okay, and then the other thing that was there was
Painting.
the painting, exterior painting. And what's that for?
So the exterior painting for Dover is the white around the back of the building, and then the blue along the front. That's, it's going into year 8. So chipping off, falling off.
So everybody's okay with those expenditures for this year? Go ahead, Lauren.
Yes, and I apologize if we have already discussed this, but have we heard, Lori, do you have any sense of funding that may become available to us through federal funding that may become available to us for any of these capital improvements?
So nothing federally. I know that the Act 72 is doing an assessment of all the different buildings and looking forward to potentially taking off a moratorium on, I would think, reno and new buildings, but that's still in the early stages. But right now, I have not heard of any other federal funding coming this way.
Okay, great.
I see that Greg has just been admitted, so maybe let's give him a second and just check with him on the building, and we can get done with that. I think we're in pretty good shape unless there's any questions from the board.
The floor get done?
The floor's this year,
When does that end? When is this year?
July, June 3rd.
So they're hoping to do it at the end of the year, I guess.
Right,
Okay.
that's on the schedule, correct?
The floor is on the schedule for the end of June.
Okay.
But it's likely, depending on it might spill over into July.
But it's accounted for in last year's, in the capital budget that we approved last year for this year.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Greg, are you
Yeah,
there? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lori.
Sorry, Greg can probably speak to this, but I don't know that we've gotten the RFPs back yet, so maybe more than 65,000, but Greg, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it absolutely will be,
Okay.
unfortunately. The rough number we were given was $25 to $28 a square foot, which would put you around 80 to 90. The estimate we got for the asbestos removal was, insanely enough, was $10,000 more than it was last year. So it's going to be a little above, for sure.
Okay, well, we'll have to deal with that when we cross that bridge, because we don't know until we know.
Yeah, I think we had the bids will be in the middle of next month, if I recall correctly.
Okay. So Greg, we also had a question. Next year, you're proposing some heaters, cabinet heaters for the Dover campus.
Yes, sir.
How many are you planning on replacing or fixing or regutting or putting new guts in?
Well, I think we really need to get in there and see exactly how many, but I think we've rebuilt 5 this year. So, I think that to start to maybe be on the proactive side of this would be ideal and start to get through them. The coils, what happened was when we had some of the breaks 2 years ago, or my first year there, they just soldered them. And the issue we're having there is those solders kept failing, and the insurance company just said, well, you got them up and running. And so I said to Dave, now we just don't fix them like that. Let's replace the coil rather than just patch it, because we're still stuck with the problem, So that was the plan.
So how many heaters does $63,000 buy that we put in there? I guess is what I've been asking.
Oh, okay, sorry. I guess if you're saying, if you do the whole unit ventilator, you're going to be between 10 and 12,000 a piece. If we gut them and do a new bearing and fan shroud and coil, we can probably do it for 3,500 a piece. So I think it'll depend on what shape they're all in. I haven't had a chance to really go through it. This was all stuff that was stuck in there before my time with the CNA. So I haven't had a chance to really get through and say, okay, this is exactly what they are. You know what I mean? Which ones we should target. But I know, I'll get with Dave and get you a list. I would say I would target all the classroom units, right? I think the kindergarten one went off this weekend. The art room, the two in the art room have been, I mean, just insanely difficult to deal with. So I think those are two that we would target. So, you know, as many as we can, Rich, as many as we can.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so on the building capital, are we good to move that one forward for the building?
Can we go back to that other slide?
Lori, can you go back to the chart which just shows the expenditures and income? Right there.
No, old ham thing, slides.
Slides.
Are you asking about the item on the warning?
No, I'm asking, are you okay with the expenditures that she showed, so that when we present this, we're gonna tell the voters that we wanna spend $111,000 on the buildings, both buildings. Is everybody good with that? You set, Dwight?
Yeah.
You look confused.
Well, I'm wondering if we should raise it. I'm just trying to figure out. But, you know, we have 100,000 each year, but maybe we can wait till next year and start. Because we have 100 every year all the way through for 10 years. At some point, it's probably going to have to go up.
Right, well, remember, we only vote on the year in question.
I understand.
But
Well-
we project out so people can see, well, especially in years where we only spend like $10,000 and we raise 100,
Yeah.
that gets really confusing. And that's why we always
I know,
project
I was
out.
debating about-
You're talking about expenditures, not.
No,
I'm
not-
talking
not
about
the-
expenditures
okay,
first,
so-
because we gotta set our
Right. At
expenditures.
some point, we have to raise. I'm wondering if this is the year to start.
Well, we are raising this year.
No, to raise it from 100 to a blanket number.
Well, we're moving the other one up.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. We won't know. We'll know better after the floor gets done. Okay.
So is everybody good with the expenditures?
Yeah.
Okay, so with these expenditures and going out, as Dwight said, though, you know, it may have to go up in future years, but right now, the plan works with the $100,000 contribution. Is everybody good requesting $100,000? Let's not talk about where it's gonna come from, let's just talk about the number first. Is everybody okay with that? Because obviously, if we're gonna spend that money and keep this plan going, if we do less, we may not, we will definitely have to raise it in the future. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Mark, you set?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to vehicle fund, Greg and Lori. So on the vehicle one, when do we project buying the next bus? It looks like we project buying that in 26.
26, yes.
Okay. And the tractor, hang on a second. And the tractor be this year.
24.
Okay. But if we move the tractor out a ways, we can probably do the bus in 25.
Yeah, you could flip-flop that.
So has the tractor come back yet, Greg?
It came back and went back out.
Well, that's good. Hopefully it's warranted.
They did not test drive it before they returned it, which did not make Dave a happy camper. And then they were going to send someone out to look at it in the field. They decided to come and get it again. I called over there the other day, and they said that they are basically putting it in two pieces again. They initially thought it was because the four-wheel drive wasn't working. They thought, and I actually think this is something they didn't put back together correctly. I don't even know that this is going to cost us much, other than just time. But now they think it's something in the mid-frame is not right. So it has been a long journey with them. Let's just say of they had to get the clutch working to realize that there were gears that weren't functioning right, which we told them, but they apparently only heard what they wanted to hear, and so they didn't, initially just go right through it knowing that. So they went through that, then they put it back together and said, well, you have some gears not working. I said, well, yeah, I'm well aware of that. That's why I sent it to you. So make the gears work. That was the point. When I said to go through and make sure everything functions as it should, that's what I meant. So they pulled it back apart, and when they started working on that, they needed another what was it, like a clutch assembly or whatever that wasn't initially part of it. I said, yes, again, you've got it this far apart. fix it if it needs it. And so they got it all back together, and it was not correct. It has been a real letdown dealing with these guys. I was really had high hopes for it being a Kubota shop, you know, that they would be really, really good, and they've been okay, but you know, there's also that piece of like, you know, some craftsmanship concerns of like it sure has taken an awful long time.
So all things being equal, are we able to push that out at least a year and see how it works when it gets back? And have this
Absolutely.
discussion
Yeah.
next year?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think you'd be safe to stick it to the 26, right? And let's hope we can get 2 years out of it, right? To then push your bus up just to get your buses done sooner. I mean, that seems like it makes sense to me.
So,
Right? Weren't you at 26 on the next bus? Or was it 25? Sorry.
27.
It was 26, I just
26.
moved it.
Okay, so if it's all moved, is everybody good with that? So there'll be no expenditures in the capital vehicle fund for this coming year?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
How is the bus operating now? Last time we talked about it, we were starting to get concerned about it.
You're talking about the newer bus,
No,
bus
the,
5?
I don't know what the number is, the one that we would be replacing in 25, 26.
So that's the newer bus, bus 5, and it's had a little problem this year, some transmission issues that we've had to work on, but it's running now, and we've used it recently, so I think it's okay. The mileage, Greg, do you recall the mileage on that? It's around 60,000, I think.
Yeah, I think
So
it was right in there. Yeah, mid-60s.
Certainly within 3-4 years, at least, more life out of it, depending on, you know, how much usage it gets. Yeah.
But we only run one bus at a time. It's not
Right.
like both buses are on the road all the time.
Exactly.
So is everybody okay with no capital? Oh,
Sorry, Rich. Matt and I did talk about trying to set a schedule next year too, to make sure that we don't just pile miles on the new bus because it's more comfortable of like X number of weeks you need to run the older bus for a couple of weeks, and you know, in a way that we can kind of minimize some of the wear and tear on it to make sure we get a couple more years out of it, you know. But
So
just like I know there was some talk about that.
that'd be a really good conversation for next budget time around. But if moving the tractorway, so we would have no capital expenditures on vehicles next year. Is everybody okay with that?
This year, yeah, next year. Right.
No capital expenditures next year, right? This coming school year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
And with you moving that, Lori, does that change your funding needs?
Not really, because we moved the bus up a year, so you're still going to want to put money into the, fleet management fund for the next couple of years to be able to afford the bus. I mean, you could lower it a little bit, but you really need to front load it to have money for the bus, and then if the tractor does go for some reason in 25, you're still covered.
Yeah, but what I'm seeing is we'll at the end of next year we'll have 100,000, and then the
And
following
you're
year
gonna spend 100 the next year, so.
right. But then we don't spend a big amount for quite a while, and we are fighting a little bit with the CLA this year. So I was hoping maybe we could if you brought the annual contribution down a little bit and maybe make it higher on the other end. What does that do for you?
Leaves you with 43 at the end of 25. That's what I'm looking at, not necessarily the end of 24, right? I'm looking at the end of
Right.
25.
Well, we'll do 25 at 50 and do 26 at 50 also.
Yeah, I mean, these, the number, we haven't really talked about going forward. You're obviously going to have to, put in a bus probably in, 30, Greg, maybe?
Well, we're
Just
buying,
buying the bus
one
this year?
in 23, so I would hope we can go to 33. I mean, we've been getting 10 years out of the bigger buses.
The 10 years? Okay.
Greg,
Right.
well, let Greg weigh in.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't get 10, right? Yeah, I mean, you're sitting at, I think you have, what, a 13 and a 14 right now, and we're in 22, you know, spring of 23, swapping it out. So yeah, we're not 9, 10 years. That seems about right, Rich.
They're at 11 and 12.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you went 50, you have enough, even if you try to, if you want to do the tractor in 26, and you have enough to do the car in 27, I think you'd still have enough. I mean, we always try it on a capital budget to make the contribution even across the board.
Yep. You want to do 50 all the way across then, just to?
Yeah, I mean, because it's just projected. We don't vote on it.
Right.
We're just voting.
That's right, yeah.
So I think that would allow you for the 2 buses, I think we'd be in really good shape, 32 through 34. Or whoever's sitting in these seats will be in decent shape. They'll thank us.
Rich, can I ask a question?
All right, that looks decent.
With the buses, what sort of capacity are we running on the bus on a daily basis?
What do you mean? I don't.
Like number of students that are being picked up, dropped off versus the number of seats available on the bus?
That's a more of a Matt question.
I'd say the average runs about 25 to 30 students at a time.
Okay. So the larger bus is a necessity based on capacity.
And remember, we're shooting 10 years out. We don't know what's going to be like in 10 years. And the difference between a 40-passenger bus and a 60-passenger bus is not that much money. You know, your money's in the transmission, the wheels, the engines. Adding seats is usually, we used to have the smaller buses. And we found that it was just as cheap to buy the larger buses. It's not that big a difference. Greg, can you weigh in on that? Do you know what, I mean, we haven't been as involved.
Told me the exact same thing when I started. We had that conversation with West River, and he said the exact same thing, that the 40 and, you know, the 40 and up passengers, he just said, you know, the savings aren't there, you know, that people think there are. So I have heard exactly what Rich said. So,
okay. And contracting out to a bus provider is not as economical as us on your own.
We've asked for contracts for the last 20 years and haven't gotten anybody even give us a price.
We're required every 3 years to go out, and no one bids.
Yes.
And we went out just the beginning of this year, I think.
So, yeah, it's not, I mean, we're very fortunate that they stayed with doing the Wardsboro run for us. So if everybody's good with that,
sorry, just also West River Transportation was the only one that bid on the West River routes that we put out this year. We didn't get a bid from Travel Cuz or First Student, and we reached out to both. So yes, it is a very, you may be stuck running your own for some time.
Yeah. Okay, so is everybody good? Then we're not going to ask for anything this year. We're going to ask for $50,000. So we just saved maybe a penny or so on the tax rate, but that's a good thing. So are you folks okay with the funding now on the doing the 50 instead of the 75? Lori, you're comfortable with that, right? For us?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So is
Looks
everybody?
good.
Okay, so Lori, was that all? We'll have a discussion. We'll let you go because I know you're not feeling well. Can we? We'll just tell you whether we're going to take that out of reserves or we're going to raise taxes at the end of the meeting. Do you have any input on that, or do you want to hang out? It's up to you. I was trying not to keep you too long.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I think that in terms of your fund balances, that you do have ample fund balance to just do a transfer into these accounts rather than raising, you're really talking, 3 or 4 cents, 5 cents on the tax rate, and your tax rates are, up there because of the CLA, not because of your expense budget, but 100% because of your CLA. So that's all, just my opinion. I think you have the reserves to do that.
You folks, would everybody be good with recommending that money come from the reserves instead of being raised in taxes?
Go
ahead, Mark.
I think we should talk about that in conjunction with the Article 10, which is how much we may use to buy down the tax rate in addition, because that would come out of reserves also.
Okay, well, let's do this. So it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, because if we take it out of taxes, then we have more we can put in on the other side, you know, for that article.
Or we may have enough in reserves that it's worthwhile doing both.
Well, no, we're gonna
No.
we can still take money out. So I think if we're all in agreement that we wanna take the money out of reserves to do these 2 articles, then we'll just ask Lori to figure out what she thinks or what she suggests we should take out to still leave enough reserves to be able to buy down the tax rate for this year.
That's one article.
I understand that, Mark. Yes. Is everybody okay with moving the money out from?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Okay. So Lori, knowing that we're gonna have 150,000 less in reserves because we're gonna
Right.
ask for this, what number would you suggest that you would feel comfortable with us moving out of reserves to put into, reduce the operational tax burden?
I'm gonna stop sharing so I can get to my other screen here. So just so you're, I believe I sent you all the audit. And I'm just gonna pull that up real quick so that you guys have a number in your head. Yeah, 1 second. Very slow tonight. While this is pulling up, I just want to clarify that this grid, once I go out to 24, this grid and then the expenses, the grid that was the expenses, both of those are going to go into the annual report.
Correct.
Yeah, and the annual report is just a mock-up right now. I have some different things that I want to move around that make more sense to me. You know,
Yeah, I
something.
think, didn't last year we did that grid that you were showing, and then we just
Yes.
had the list underneath the building one on what the building issues were, correct?
We did, that's
Okay.
exactly right, yep. So I just wanna make sure we're gonna do that, so, oh, I did it wrong. Sorry, guys, you may wanna move on and come back to me.
Okay, well, let's do this.
I'm having trouble getting the right thing up here.
We have, there's a boom box or something. Hang on.
The call-in user.
Call-in user
Oh, no.
1.
Mark has come on his regular box. He's the big M.
He's the big M. Oh, Mark. So we asked Mark to come in under old business to talk about, there were some questions about the Burton stuff. So Mark, can you hear us?
I can hear you. How
Hey,
are
there you are. Good, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
So we, there was some confusion and some questions. I guess your assistant headmaster or deputy headmaster, I can't remember the exact term, had testified in the House Ed or Senate Ed or something, and there was confusion about the sending school versus the regular tuition versus how many people have ever been denied. Can you kind of just give us some background on that, and then I'm sure there's going to be some questions.
Sure. And first of all, I'd like to say I wish I could be there in person. We've all learned how to Zoom thanks to COVID, but I'd much rather do this and be there. But I have a dedication here in about 25 minutes. So Zoom it will have to be. Bill sent me some of the questions, and I think there was questions around Meg Kenny's testimony. She's the associate head, and she outlined, if I'm correct, 3 different categories of towns, right? We have sending towns, and sending towns account for the overwhelming number of students that attend Burton, and Dover and Wardsboro are sending towns. We've got 9 sending towns that are in the Taconic and Green School District, and then there's Win Hall, and one or two others. So all told, we have 13 sending towns. And the sending towns are exactly what I think you already know. There's a mutual commitment to, we serve your community, and any member of your community can send their kid to Burr and Burton, and at no cost to the family. That accounts for about 700 of our students in round numbers. A second type of town is what we refer to as choice towns. Those are towns that are non-operating districts, and they are not sending towns. So they haven't approved our tuition. And typically we get, there are, typically we have 12 or 13, 14, in that range. It can fluctuate, but there are towns where 1 or 2 or 3 kids come from that town and come to Burr and Burton, bringing the statewide average. And then the family's responsible for making up the difference between the statewide average tuition and our private pay tuition. Our private pay tuition is $2,500 higher than our tuition for sending towns. And then the third category, if I'm understanding Meg's testimony correctly, but I'll tell you a third category, are families coming from either districts in Vermont that are operating a school, or even from outside Vermont. We get students from Cambridge and Salem, and I actually had a family visit today from Troy, New York. So we're not all that close to the border, but as I think you know from your own experience, families and kids are willing to travel a pretty significant distance to get the opportunities that are offered here at Burr and Burton. So in those cases, the family is responsible for the entirety of the tuition because they're not getting any tuition support from their town whatsoever. So there are your 3 categories.
Okay, and then what was, I think, was that what we wanted clarified? Is there something else we needed?
Yeah, that's different than the testimony given to House Ed. But.
Okay, so we'll hit that in a second. I think the other question was, that has always come up is, one of the things that when you first came and talked to at least us in Dover when we became a sending town was that if you're a sending town, you will always be guaranteed a spot. You'll never say we're too full or we don't have room. And the question's always been, has that ever been an issue in the past? Have you ever said no to somebody who wanted to tuition in?
Yes, and it's as recent as, I think it was 3 years ago. We had to go develop a waiting list, and not everyone got in off of the waiting list. So typically, what happened is we had a surge of applications, people wanting to come here, and we're committed to first fill up with our sending towns students. That's part of the mutual commitment or partnership with our sending towns. And so, what we did is just anyone who was outside of the sending towns had to be on a waiting list, including, we have, one special ed program in particular, or access program, that's very highly regarded and sought after. And, what we always do is, in a sending town, we do everything we can to place a kid in that program who needs to be in that program, and even adjust and tailor the program to the kid. And what we have to do is really on an annual basis, tell families from outside the 10 sending towns, we have to see if there's going to be space available. And if there's not, then that's just the way the chips fall. So it's not that we're necessarily rejecting those kids, other than if we don't have space, we can't accept them.
Okay, thank you. So
You're welcome.
I'm gonna open it up to questions from the board. Oh, go ahead, Laura, you first.
I think there were other questions that we had asked Bill to send along that weren't answered.
Right, but I'm assuming that he hasn't had a chance to dive deep into the 5-year, but you can make sure that you have your question correct. Make sure that what I gave Mark is what you are looking for.
Yeah, so the first question was, how many students from non-member towns have been denied?
Who am I? He doesn't know everybody on the board.
Laura Sibilia. How many students from non-member towns have been denied? And I heard you say some. Do you have a number?
Well, I wouldn't say, I denied, I think is the, I mean, maybe it's semantics, but if we don't have space, you know, we can't, you know, the kid can't attend Burr. So it's not that we're, I think it's not just semantics, but it's a handful. It's not a big number because we're very committed to kids, period. Including, you know, I want to, anyone who wants to come here, I really want to figure out how to allow them to come here.
So, I mean, the basis for my questions is, every year we have, as we are required to do, on our town meeting article, additional amount beyond what we are obligated to pay. And the nature of my questions is due diligence on what that is, you know, what that purchases for us, if there is value in what that purchases for us. So that is where my questions are centered around. This was not one of my questions, but I would like to ask you, with your waiting list, was that on just your general program, or was that for some of your special education programs?
No, that was general program as well.
Okay. And what is your maximum enrollment in your general program?
Well, we just opened up a new building, Founders Hall, about 18 months ago. So it's, you know, it's bigger. I don't have a specific number. You know, we haven't done
what's the
detailed analysis, but we just added 25,000 square feet of educational space. And I should say, you know, a couple of things is you're clearly thinking, if you're thinking in financial and value terms, you know, our average spending per student is about $25,000 per student, a little north of that. And in addition, all of our buildings are funded through private philanthropy. So I got to listen a little bit to your discussion about buses and so forth. And, you know, the building we just opened was thanks to a incredibly generous gift. But that's how we build.
Yeah.
And so all of our expansions, all of our facilities are built at no cost to the taxpayer. We really rely on the partnership with our sending towns, and we have
so Mark,
you know,
I'm going to interrupt you.
Students.
I'm going to interrupt you because I know I'm going to interrupt you because I know your time is limited, and I'm sure that other board members have questions for you. I think I heard you say you only had 25 minutes with us.
Right.
Yes. So I'm really looking just for numbers.
I understand, but you were just asking about weighing the value, so I was trying to help you understand the value, which I can continue to do or not. I'd like to answer your questions. So.
Yep. And so for me, I'm weighing the value of the extra money that we pay on top of what is required and our ability to cut outside of this building, which we've discussed before. We don't have the ability to cut outside of this building. So if the taxpayers ask us to cut, we have to cut inside this building. And so that's the value proposition for me. Do you know what the highest number of enrollment you've had in your regular programs has been?
Yeah, I mean, we're closing in on 800 students.
Okay, great.
Right
Thank
now,
you.
which is, you know, we continue to grow.
And then I think the other question that I had asked, I'm not positive, was of in the non-sending towns, what percentage of those students receive financial aid, and what is the average financial aid they receive?
We have, I would say, 80 to 90% of the families can't afford to pay the full gap, and we provide assistance to them. Everybody's paying something. We're committed to support families. We're committed to serve students.
Right.
You know, if they don't have any, if their town is not paying anything, you know, they're average, on average, they're probably paying somewhere in the $12,000 per year range. So it's substantial, and you know, but again, we try to make it work for families. And, you know, that's our commitment. So you know, you can try to reduce it down to dollars and cents. We really look at it in terms of students and supporting students and supporting communities.
Of course, just as we do in this building, which is the only place that we have control over the budgets for. So of the non-member Vermont towns that send to the school, that send to Burr and Burton, do you know how much financial aid those students typically would receive?
I'm not following your question.
So I think you said that, so a student from Troy, for instance, that had need, the average was around $12,000. What was the $12,000? Right. Okay. So a student a non-member student, I don't know if,
do you mean a non-sending town?
Non-sending, yeah. And well, let's say Rupert. Let's say they're not a sending district.
So the gap there is about $5,000.
And
right?
Yeah.
Between the statewide average and the tuition.
Right.
So it's about $5,000, and I don't have an average number off the top of my head.
Is that
but
a number
lot of
that
families can't afford $5,000, as I think you know.
So that was one of the requests that we had made, I think several weeks ago. Is that a number that you'd be able to get to us, what the average offset is for non-member Vermont towns in terms of financial aid?
So can you repeat that again?
So what is the average financial aid assistance that is being provided to non-sending, I keep calling it member, non-sending Vermont towns? So not the Troy towns, but you know, the non-sending Vermont towns. So Dover and Wardsboro are sending towns.
What are we trying to decide here? I guess I'm getting more and more confused.
We were confused last week, so if I didn't say thank you or last 2 weeks ago, thank you for joining us. So Dover and Wardsboro are sending towns. And so all of our students go for $19,987, I believe that was the last rate. So Halifax, which is not a sending town, but is a Vermont town that has school choice. There are Halifax, sure. There are a number of Vermont towns that aren't sending towns that will receive from the state the allowable tuition rate, which I think is $17,298. What is the financial assistance that is being provided, the average financial assistance that is being provided to those students to make up that $5,000 gap between what the state provides and what Burr and Burton charges to non-sending town districts?
Yeah, I guess I don't know the answer to that, and that was not one of the questions that was put forth to me.
Okay.
But I can tell you that we raise, you know, our financial aid is raised through private philanthropy. We raise well over $1 million a year towards our annual fund to support students who are, support all students. It's all part of what we do in terms of the total value package. And, you know, so if you're concerned about whether there's some mixing of funds or something, I guess I want to assure you that it's not. It's all privately raised.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about it being mixing of funds. and this is it for me, Mr. Chair. So I would, it would be great if you could provide us with the average financial aid. What I'm concerned about is, what I want to have answers when I go to town meeting, when we say to the voters, if we are not a sending town, our families might expect on average to receive X amount of financial aid to make up the difference between the 17,000 and the 22,000. That's what I would like for information.
But I think there's I would point out to you that we have a relatively small number of families in that category right now, and a limited financial aid budget. So whatever we're giving right now, I think the value proposition, and it's one I would want to make to your town, and I'm planning on coming to town meeting, would be that we have a partnership that enables any family to come and come at no cost to them as a family. And we provide what I think your families are finding is a tremendously valuable education.
Yeah, we certainly have heard that.
To lower, or to move away from being a sending town would, I think, would hurt your families, and it would complicate our lives as the educator that is serving those families. And so I would
So Mark,
love to see you continue to be a sending town. Yes.
Mark, can you hang on for a sec? Okay, I'm going to cut Laura off, and I'm going to cut you off because we've got other people that would like to ask questions too. So Laura's question though, she's looking for just a number. If that's something you can give us, so if there's other tuitioning towns in Vermont that just pay the statewide average tuition, can you just say we have 12 students that do that and we contributed $5,000 as an average to each student? That's the number she's looking for. She's asking a question so she can better feel more comfortable for town meeting. So if you could do that for us, that would be great. I'm going to go over this side so that when we're going to switch back and forth and take you until we can't have you anymore. So Chad wanted to ask a question. So, and I'm going to ask the board members when they ask a question to just introduce themselves. I don't know if you know everybody or not.
Hey, Mark. Chad Starro, board member from Wardsboro. I think to kind of help clarify some of the elements that Laura's asking, we have sort of a little bit of a rub because some of the financial aid activities she's asking about may also be covered under FERPA where we can't disclose that information, number one. And that's something that needs to be considered about, especially if it's monies that are outside, because on the website in your admission and financial aid process, Burr and Burton states specifically that there is a limited financial aid budget. Most of it is awarded based on merit. So academic and good standing, number one. So as Mark has already indicated, that if you are from a choice town, we want to have you, or we, speaking for Burr and Burton, they would like to have that student and be able to have that student educated. So if the student does present as someone who has kind of less than whatever threshold might be established by Burr and Burton, which cannot be discussed because it's the academic record of a student and that's protected information, then that's something that they may not award a merit scholarship for, and they would have to go through a FAFSA form to get student loan money from another source. And that's not something that we would be able to discern. You're shaking your head no.
We're not asking for that information.
Yeah, and
but I think you are, because you want to find out what the average award is given to a student that attends Burr and Burton that is not from a sending town. So, and that would be essentially, you're asking to say, okay, what are the needs based for other students? And that's exactly what you asked.
So Chad, hang on. So you're not asking a question, you're more rebutting something that was said. So can you hold that in case somebody has a question?
Well, but I also saw that Mr. Tashjian was a bit confused by the question. Okay. Because again, they do have merit-based money that is culled from the endowment of Burr and Burton Academy. And again, to reinforce what has been said about the value-based information, right away we're looking at a difference between what the average spend is per student at Burr and Burton, regardless of where they come from, as we're talking about sending town, of being a little over $5,000. So, if you want to look at it and say, hey, listen, the towns are being asked to put a little bit more in over the state average, and they're also getting a lot more on the end that is being taken from the privately raised funds of the independent school of Burr and Burton Academy. So again, the question is about value add in the proposition to figure out how money comes. And again, I think Mr. Tashjian answered the question quite wonderfully, that the value is not just monetary, because what students actually get from their experiences at Burr and Burton is far and above what is being actually sent in from their towns. And I understand, Laura, because you've said in the past, as we've had this discussion, and I see the angle you're coming. Can we afford for our community to vote down being a sending town and still have students attend without an awful lot of money coming out of pocket? And as it's already been said, that gap is not always able to be bridged by the family. And if that student is not above that threshold, whatever it might be that Burr and Burton has set for an academically merited scholarship, how do they come about those funds? And are we putting more of a detriment to that community member who wants to take advantage of what Burr and Burton does offer, but cannot themselves bridge the gap? In which point they're taking out a loan, and now that, let's say it was a $2,500 merit scholarship, they've got to come up with the other $2,500. Well, now it's 25 plus interest, plus interest, plus interest.
Chad, I'm going to cut you off because you haven't asked the question yet. Do you have a question for Mark?
No, I think his information has been fantastic.
Okay. Do you have a question?
I do. So Mark,
Okay.
My name is Kate Rideout. I am also a board member, and I wanted to just check in. So I wanted to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So the best thing, from your perspective, to serve the 38 students from our community that are currently choosing BBA is that if we remain a sending town, those students are eligible regardless of financial ability and regardless of academic standing. Is that accurate? Is that?
That is accurate, and any other families, any other students in Dover and Wardsboro are also welcome.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have a question?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mark, do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
First,
Gloria?
Mark Schaber. First, I want to point out that almost every public school charges a lower.
Okay, that's not a question.
Well,
Mark,
they
you can
charge
make- Mark,
a
hang on.
lower fee.
Okay.
My question is, on February 7th, Meg Kenny testified that a choice town pays the state average and the family pays the difference up to the sending town tuition. I'm just clarifying that that was not correct.
Wait, you're gonna have to repeat that again, I'm sorry.
She testified to House Ed that for a choice town, not a sending town, a choice town, the town pays the state average and the family pays the difference up to the sending town tuition.
That's incorrect. It's
Okay.
up to the private pay tuition.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
No, I also want to point out they've got a $21 million
Hang on,
endowment,
Mark.
so.
Okay, folks, listen. We've got him for a limited time. If there's questions, please ask the questions. You can make comments later. Does anybody have any other questions before I go back to Laura? Because you kind of had a lot of time. Mark, how much longer do you have?
I really have to run. I've got we have a dedication of a structure taking place in 15 minutes, and I'm supposed to get there and welcome people. It's a memorial structure. It's our observatory in honor of somebody who passed away 9 months ago. So I'm supposed to be there at 6:30, and it's now 6:42.
Okay.
So I think I've got to run.
Okay, so Laura did ask a request for a number, not an explanation. If you can do that number, we don't need to know who the student is, where they're from. It's an average. If you could do that for us, that would really help at least one board member.
And I'm just going to point out that Laura was explaining that so she could give an idea of what people could expect. And what I want to point out is that, we're talking about, around 40 students currently in that pool. And I don't think that's a limited financial aid pool. So you double size of the pool, everyone gets half of that. So it's a historical number that would not be one I would want to promise to everybody in Dover and Wardsboro going forward, because, if you do not want to be a sending town, you know, it would double the size of people applying for that limited pool.
And I think that was
I
the
would
point.
much rather, what's that?
No, go ahead.
Right, and I guess I would say, you know, all too often, I think, you know, I would just say, I think we've worked really hard to be a really good sending town and recipient of Dover students, and I think if you look at and talk to the families who have sent their kids to Burton, you would find a very high level of satisfaction with the education and the care and attention provided. And that works because of our relationship with all of our sending towns. So I would really encourage you, and I would even ask for your support to continue as a sending town, not only for the families of Dover, but because that's what makes all of our sending towns. It allows us to be what we are to all of our sending towns.
Okay.
So,
But, and as you know, it's something that has to be voted on every year. So
Yeah,
it gets
absolutely.
discussed every year, and it will be discussed at the annual school district meeting again this year, as it will be next year, and long after I'm gone, unless the law changes.
and long after that, yes.
Okay,
Long after
so,
we're both gone.
Mark, thank you. If you could do that one, so I think the only outstanding question is the one that Laura had. And if you could just get us a number, and I understand the caveats that you threw out there, okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Good.
I really appreciate it. Have a good time of your dedication.
Next time I see you will be in person.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care.
We'll go back to this in a minute. I'd like to get Lori so we can let her go because she's sick. And then we'll get back to this and we'll bounce around a little bit. It's gonna be interesting meeting. Lori,
Okay, so you ended the year with $845,000 in your reserves. This is your operational reserves. This is not part of capital or your fleet management. So you're going to use potentially 150 of that, and then I wouldn't recommend going any higher than 80,000 to draw down the tax rate. And if the yield stays right where it is, which we know it typically doesn't, if it stays right where it is, that would get Wardsboro to $1.99. They're just over $2. So that would just drop them below that. I wouldn't go any lower than that. I like to see your reserves, your operational reserves at about 10%. So that would be my recommendation, but we're and do what they want.
well, and the voters get to decide at the meeting also, so.
Absolutely, they do, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions about that? So we'll put in the 80,000 in the warning, but again, that can be adjusted to some extent at the meeting. So does,
And usually you, sorry.
go ahead, Lori, and then Mark.
Usually you put up to 80,000, so then if our yield goes up, then, you know, you may not need to use as much.
Or if it goes way down, we may decide to use a little more.
Exactly.
Okay, Laura and Mark were just saying, Laura and Mark were just saying, did the yield change today?
No, it is, as you know, unlikely that we will know what the yield is going to be for
Right, at the meeting.
quite some more time.
Yeah, it's only when we meet at the end of May do we know what the yield is. But I was hoping maybe everybody'd go home early from Montpelier, so I didn't know.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so Lori, I think we're all set, so.
I'm
sorry.
Double check. So we're talking 100,000 for capital, 50,000 for transportation, 80,000 for, up to 80,000, that will all come out of reserves. Just clarify,
Right.
make sure I have it correct.
So
That
we're-
is
Okay.
correct. It would drop you down to 615. You're probably looking at a surplus this year, although once all of the new positions have been hired, that will, you know, right now you're looking at about 100,000, but, you know, you make them out just about flat if you get those positions in before the new year.
And the floor.
I mean, before the end of the year.
Well, Mark said the floor too is gonna be interesting. So does anybody else need anything from Lori? So Lori, we are gonna have to vote on the agenda. So we'll use that 80,000 and we'll use the 150 to come out of reserves.
Okay, sounds good.
Is everybody good with that? We voted on the budget last meeting, so Lori, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lori. Feel better.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
Greg,
Need
so,
to make
oh, I'm sorry.
Matt the host.
Matt, will you be hosting?
He is. You were just a co-host.
So Greg, we have one more thing for you and we can let you go. Building update, there was a question on the PCB testing.
Yes, sir. Dover is gonna get their testing done in April break, over April break. And Wardsboro's on the schedule for the spring of 24. So it was very random the way they put everybody out. Marlboro and Jamaica have been done. Leland and Gray and Dover have had their buildings surveyed by the folks from Fussin O'Neill, and they are hoping to be here over April break. We were hoping to push it up as much as February, and they just didn't have everything ready for us. So they are doing Dover and Leland and Gray over April break.
Thank you.
There has been some discussion about pausing the testing. Because once you have a result,
And then you have to act with
there's no money.
That is true. There is no money, and they have discussed that. There were some people, though, that were pushing back against that, too, because they have already done the research that there is some concerns here. It's just a sticky situation where the state kind of, I feel like maybe jumped the gun a little bit, but hopefully it ends with, either not having much or it does trigger, the feds to start putting in some federal spending money again for school construction, so.
That was why I wanted to know where we stood in regards to that, the capital that we're going to be putting into, the money we're going to be putting into the capital reserve fund.
Well, we can also always, if we find something and we need to do something in a hurry, we can always have a special meeting and deal with it. So, are you guys okay with all that? Was there any other? So, Greg, we talked about the tractor and the new bus. I think we're in good shape. Does anybody need Greg for anything else?
Do we have a delivery date on the bus yet?
May. It was May then. I called over there actually today just to check in with them, and they said, we look like we're on schedule. They haven't heard anything otherwise. So, hoping early May. May could be late May. But, it's been tough with things like this. The lead times are just so crazy.
It will come when it will come.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Okay, I'm gonna go back to you now. Did you print those, Matt?
Yes.
Oh, you got them? Okay.
So,
Can we have one?
yes. Can you pass me that?
Yeah, well, just, whatever.
Okay, thank you. So this is an article that was passed 90% of the electorate in Taconic and Green, unanimously in Winhall and also in Stratton. I think it's important for us to send a message to, even though I think things are going our way, for most of us, in the legislature, I think it's important to send a message that we want to keep our same educational situation that we have right now. And I guess there's two ways. Either you guys could vote on it and we could have a vote at the annual meeting, or we could do a petition. And we called Andy. I thought when is the annual meeting? Is it May?
No, it's April. It has to be in with, it's
Right,
gonna be
it had to be
signed. It's
within
gotta be done
47
today.
days, right. So we didn't have enough time to do the petition. I'm just learning about all this.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I think-
because we can't just approve this for the electorate because we don't speak for the electorate. We represent the electorate.
Right.
So
Mhm.
what you're asking us to do is to put this as an article on the agenda. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you guys could decide to do that.
No, we can,
Yeah, you guys could decide to do that. I
even
could
if
get
you-
a petition with, I need 50 signatures, I could get that in an hour.
Even if you had a petition, we don't have to do it,
Yeah, okay.
okay?
But I could get, what if we had hundreds of people?
Doesn't matter. The
You could
board can
choose not
just
to do it,
choose
yeah.
not to do it
I just think
also.
it's important because I think that there's a couple members of the school board that are like, it feels like they're almost hostile to Burr and Burton and to school choice. I feel that it's important that the citizens get to express how important it is to us and how important it is, we feel, to our community, and the reason that a lot of families decide and choose to move to this area. It's because of school choice that we have here, the education system. I know that we made that decision. I've heard countless other people make that, have made that decision. So I think it's important to send a message to the governor, the legislator, our own school board, that this is important to the community. So I would like to see it. Everybody else has done it. I don't know why it wasn't done here. I wish I had known earlier, just kind of learning about all of this.
So I'm really kind of confused about this. Shall the school district advise the school board, Vermont General Assembly, and the governor of that? I think that doesn't make sense. It's shall the electorate advise. Yeah,
Well, I think I guess they're asking, this is an article that's voted on by the public, right?
Well, no, this would be an article that would be on the agenda. So the school board.
Oh, it'd be on the warning.
On the warning.
On the warning, the agenda for the annual meeting, the warning
Right, so
for
then
the
it'd
annual
be
meeting.
voted on by the
But shall the school district?
So essentially, we have the citizens that are asking the school board to write a letter or
To
make a
advise the
statement.
school board? So shall the River Valley School
No.
Board advise the school board? Which school board? The Vermont General Assembly
Well, I
and the
think
governor?
perhaps with Taconic and Green being a larger member of BRSU, asking the BRSU school board, I would agree that that could have been worded better. However, it's pretty plain that with the Vermont General Assembly and governor, that the local school boards are making this
I'm
statement.
okay with
right?
I'm
Yeah.
okay with the Vermont General
Sure.
Assembly and the governor, but I don't, yeah. Because their school district doesn't. Support. The public funding in school discriminates. The electorate supports the current structure. This has enabled our district.
Richard,
Yeah,
can I ask you a question?
yeah, hang on a second. The electorate opposes efforts to change current structure to avoid education and concept. Those current level education. Okay, just before we go anywhere, I think that the header has to change. I think 1, 2, 3, and 4 are okay. I just think shall the electorate advise the Vermont General Assembly and the governor? I mean, I think that makes sense.
And the school board. I mean, I feel like we need.
Well, you would be doing that
Yeah.
because the discussion's gonna be with the school board.
Yeah.
So I don't,
Well, similar
Am
to
I right
other
in thinking
articles.
this is how they did their heading?
Yeah.
hey.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this passed almost unanimously
Yeah,
everywhere
okay.
else, yeah.
So it would be
So-
the electric, shall the electric advise?
right, it's the
Well,
electorate.
like
Yeah,
the
but I think that's what they mean by
articles, shall
school
the voters-
district. I mean,
Right, so
that's what they mean.
okay,
Yeah.
shall the,
Or shall the voters, similar
Well,
to
the
the other
voters,
articles,
voters.
like
electorate.
in the
Okay.
style of the
So
other
the voters
articles, shall the
advise
voters.
the general,
They're advising the school board as well, because they're voting on it, they're advising us.
yeah. Okay, so if we could, let's let's make that change for now,
Just
and
the
then let's
electorate?
have some discussion, yeah. No, I like the voters. So the voters advise the Vermont General Assembly and Governor that. Okay. So, go ahead, Laura.
So my questions are process questions.
Yeah.
So did I hear you say that today is the deadline for?
No,
getting
we need to
something
sign because we can't go to the next meeting, we don't have enough time. So we either sign it today.
The
or
warning.
The warning, or we have to have a special meeting.
Okay, so, and when is the drop dead date for the special meeting? Okay.
I don't know when we would
Okay,
have to.
that's fine.
have it.
So, does this have to be warned for us to consider it tonight, adding it to the agenda?
You have on the agenda approved the warning.
Right, so I think it fits.
So this is something, so just having something,
Yeah, we
proposed.
can change, we're gonna discuss the
Okay.
agenda tonight. So
Okay.
we're gonna set the agenda for the annual
okay,
meeting.
so that's good. Okay.
So,
And if we did not add it to the warning as it is written, is there some other way for the voters to bring this, or petitioners to bring this to town meeting?
well,
Town
it would
meeting
be
or
the
school district?
school district meeting. We're using interchangeably because they were saying town meeting also. But yes, I mean, it can be discussed under other business. It's not binding under other business. It is binding if it's done as an article.
Binding in, what would be
That
the
we would-
binding action?
That we want to
I think it's
advise the
important to be
General Assembly and the
clear.
governor that
Yeah.
we believe this, that the electorate believes this, not.
So would the binding action be the vote?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
if it's an article, you have to vote on
Right.
it. Right.
So what would the binding action be? I think it's really
That's-
important for you to be clear,
I-
Richard,
my-
about if the electorate passes this.
I'm not sure. To me, the binding action is that the electorate feels that because our school districts do not operate, because the electorate does not support public funding, electorate supports current structure, and the electorate opposes efforts.
So we would be informing the General Assembly and the governor.
That we don't have to inform them, it's just that the article informs them.
Okay. All right. So,
Just like any other article that's voted on at town meeting or.
okay. Great. Then I have another question. Has anybody had a chance to review this at all? So my only other question is around if this, so it's not really binding us to anything. So, because we have constitutional issues at play in the courts. And so this would not create any kind of legal challenge for us.
I don't see
By offering
it.
this and having our voters approve
I
this.
don't see it. I think if the voters approve it, then it's a statement that.
It's a statement.
It's a statement made
Okay.
to
Okay, that's
the
it for me.
General Assembly and the
Thank
governor.
you.
One year at town meeting, we did something like this for, I forget what it was for. Sue Rand brought it up.
46.
No, it was on the select board
Oh,
side.
yeah, no, it was
And
to
it was-
impeach or something.
Yeah,
it was to impeach,
and it
move
was-
articles of impeachment.
And they chose to pass over it, so.
Does this need to be, what's the wording of the motion that's necessary here?
To add this to the warning?
Yeah.
It would be that I make a motion to approve, because it's not, Article 9 is specific to something, to other.
To Winhall.
Right,
To Winhall.
the article number is not important, it's the article.
Okay.
So it'd be that I would like to move that there be an article on the warning for the annual school district meeting to read, and I'm not gonna make you read it, but shall the.
So moved.
Okay, so Laura's moving that this become an article. We'll assign a number to it again, it doesn't matter what the number is. And are you good with shall the voters advise the Vermont General Assembly and the governor that?
To the extent that I understand how we are bound by this and what the potential consequences are for us legally as the court cases go, yes, I am fine with the wording as it is.
As I just stated, because
Yes.
it's not as it's
Yes.
written. Okay.
Yes.
Do I have a second to Laura's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Meredith, I know this is a little confusing, but we haven't had a lot of motions. Are you good with the motion?
Is it okay if I send her a copy of this?
Yeah.
Well,
But
why
just
don't you-
wait till
why
we
don't you wait till
change
it's-
it.
Yeah, wait till it's updated.
I'm sorry,
Do you want to
Meredith.
tell me, do you want to tell me the language for the motion?
So the
I didn't
motion,
really get that.
the motion was to place an article on the River Valley's annual meeting to state, shall the voters advise the Vermont General Assembly and the governor that, and we'll send you the rest of the wording.
Great.
So you have
Thank
that? Okay. We have a motion by Laura and a second by Dwight. Laura, you get first dibs at it.
So I think this matters an awful lot to our parents. I think they're really scared about the legal atmosphere that we're in. I think there's a lot of unhelpfulness out there. I don't know that this is especially helpful in bringing more information to folks, but I think it's really important for people to feel like they've expressed how important this is to them. And I think we should do it. I think we cannot be afraid to debate information or bring ideas that may make us uncomfortable forward onto the floor to see how the voters feel. So, there we go.
Great. Yeah, I think this is great. This is the first time that I've been around. We've had someone from the public bring an article for us to warn, and yeah, why not? Put it out there, let everyone discuss it, and we'll see, get some information. We'll see what they want us to do. And that's what we're here for, right? To do what they want us to do.
Kate or Chad?
I'm digesting it. So, can I ask a question of
yeah.
the administration? Is there anything, like Bill, have you had a moment to read this? Is there anything, any concerns that you would have in the language or anything like that?
I kind of have similar thoughts to Laura of just understanding, as this goes through the legal process, does this put any challenges on the board? But I would say that in my opinion, this is like a statement that the electorate would be making. So for example, if there were 300 people at the meeting and 160 voted for this and 140 voted against this, that could be data that could be presented on the ongoing discussion about this issue. That's kind of how I see it.
Okay, thank you.
Bet.
I think, again, it's wonderful to have this come from the public and see some coordination amongst school boards in various areas of the state. And I'd like to particularly point out to Section 2, as the electorate does not support the public funding of any school that discriminates against students or staff on the basis of race, creed, color, national origin, disability, marital status, sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And I think that just further supports, I think this board wholly agrees on having equity and bringing access to all students, and shows, I think, a big statement of support for our young people across the board.
Okay. Mark?
I'll support this because the electorate brought it to us. I think procedurally, it wasn't on the agenda, and that I have a problem with the procedure. But I'll support it because the electorate brought it to us.
Good.
One other thing that I would say, I am concerned, I do have a concern. I still am in support of us doing this, but I am concerned that we further feed into the notion that that this is a, we like school choice, we don't like school choice debate. There's a constitutional issue at hand here, which is driving this discussion. And I want to make sure that we don't also give our voters and electorate false hope. I want to make sure that we provide them with accurate information in addition. So I imagine that this will be a robust conversation at our school district meeting, and I'd like to make sure that we are prepared to provide actual data about the court cases that are at play here and what is driving this conversation.
So my thought is that if there was to be an article that states that we will not pay our property taxes to the state of Vermont, and 100% of every registered voter, Mark, got a ballot in the mail and filled it out and voted in agreement.
Don't go into that argument. Don't go into that argument.
And told us to do that, it's going to be just as what we did to our administrator not that long ago, where the board made a motion to go against a law, and it doesn't matter if everybody voted for it, we're still going to wind up having to send the state of Vermont a tax bill or a check for $14 million. So, or at least out of Dover, I don't know what Wardsboro would send. So I'm okay with this because this is a discussion. It doesn't, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of feel like it's it will let a lot of people have a lot of discussion. I think, Laura, a lot of points can be made, and people can get a lot of information, and I hope people do plan on bringing a lot of information. And I think it's definitely something I very much support. And I will say, in 20 some odd years, this is the first time I've ever had a parent. Are you a parent?
Yes, I'm shocked.
Seriously, that we've ever had a parent bring something forward like this. So I give you a lot of credit. You did something new for me, and maybe.
I don't know how to do this. Like.
No, I mean that's fine. And again, the other thing, to Mark's point, I'm okay that maybe procedurally it may not be exactly perfect, but you know, it was. I give you a lot of credit because it's not easy to come before this motley crew to speak to us. So I'm hoping that we can move forward. Yes.
I just want to know if there's a hand
Yeah,
up.
I know the board's having discussion, so I don't think we're going to need input from the public on this one. I think we've got our input. We already had public comment. So are you folks ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please signify so by saying aye.
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 And it's so neat, we're in a live meeting. It's a unanimous decision. So just make that change on the top and then send it to Meredith.
So just, we're gonna take out.
I wrote it on the top of
Okay,
that one.
perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. So approve the warning. So now let's go to the warning. So I know it's not perfect. I know Mark's already caught a few mistakes, but that's why I always send it out early, because Mark always catches all my mistakes. So Andy asked that we include on the top the voting for, I brought it with me, I just gotta find it.
Date the 24th?
Okay, a note.
Oh, no.
Note. So under the legal voters, I'm gonna put a note above the please note. So it's gonna say note to elect 2 school directors.
Date's wrong.
Directors, hang on, don't give me two. Directors by Australian ballot. Director articles will be, we don't have elect 2, just elect.
No, we did last year. I brought a copy of last
But that's
year's.
because it's the same day as the meeting.
But we still have to warn the election somehow. We haven't done that.
We can just warn the election as an election. All we did was warn the election to discuss changing the articles, so we'll just do a separate election warning.
We can't just do it at the top of this, the way we did. It was the same day, but it started at 10 a.m. It wasn't like the meeting started at the same time.
Okay. So we're gonna add, thank you, Mark. We're gonna add on the top of this, that we're gonna, on the bottom, we're gonna have Article 13 will be, I'm gonna call it the parent petition. I'm sorry, give me your first name again. Beth. I'm gonna put Beth petition. And then Article 14 will be the vote by Australian ballot. And then Article 14, and then Article 15 will be to adjourn. No, we're wrong. Article 11.
I think you just have 11.
Would you put it above
backwards.
10? Would you put this one as 11 and then move the current 11 and 12 below this one?
No, let's do this. No, this is fine. Other business, let's move Article 13. Let's put the Beth petition as Article 11. Article 11 is the Beth petition.
Okay.
Article 12 becomes the any other business. Article 13 is to elect a moderator, and I'm going to tell you why I did that. I know we usually do that first, but we did that last year first, and then we wound up with somebody who chose not to run, not to perform the functions of the job. So my thought was, let's do it last so that people can see what's involved, and then somebody can step up.
And then you've got
I
number
just
one.
suggest we do it
to
before
start.
the any other business though. So if the last one is any other business and then adjournment.
Well, I wanted him to run to see what happens to the
Even
whole
that-
thing.
even that
I just
last
thought it'd be the last thing before adjournment was to elect the moderator.
That's fine with me.
Article 13, and then Article 12 becomes any other business. Article 13 is the, no, Article 13 is,
The Australian ballot.
Australian ballot, thank you. And then Article 14 is to elect the moderator.
And with the Australian ballot is voting on,
They'll be voted the day before, they'll be all done.
to review the,
Right, because there'll be a note that the note will be Article 13 will be voted on by Australian ballot at, just like we had last year. Last year was actually Article 12.
We added the parent petition. That's why we've got additional articles.
No,
here.
yeah, but
so that's our,
Yeah,
Article 13 will be our way of reminding people to come out and vote on April 24th.
right. And then the last article will be to adjourn. Is everybody good with
We vote
that?
the day before we go through the warning.
We vote the day before we do the
Yeah.
agenda.
So
Yep.
the election will be over.
Right.
And Tuesday, the 26th is wrong.
Yes.
It's Tuesday the 25th, Monday is the 24th.
And also paragraph right above it, 2023, not 2025. April
There you
25th.
go. That was my
Whoops.
question.
Where am I supposed to be?
Slightly in the future.
I'm trying
Time travel.
to skip these next couple of years in meetings.
What, Richard?
I'm trying to skip some
We usually go
meetings.
the
do
other
one long
direction.
meeting.
Okay, so anyways, now
Oh.
let's,
Chad just found another one, Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, and not 22. Good work, Chad.
okay. Mark, you missed that one.
Yeah.
I got one over
I
on
had
you.
it. I thought Dwight just said it. So
So many twos, they became Zs.
Okay, so listen, we got the top, we'll note to elect. So the first Article 1, so what'll happen is because our
moderator.
moderator resigned, I'll open the meeting, and then we'll ask for nominations from the floor to do this meeting only. It'll just be the one meeting. Then we'll go to Article 2, the clerk, Article 3, the treasurer, Article 4, the stipend. So Mark had a comment on the stipend. He wanted to change the stipend. So we went to 2,000 and 2,500, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
When we started,
Pardon?
when we started, right?
Yeah.
No, but I
No,
mean, we've
the whole
been,
Dover.
in Dover, we've been at that number
Oh,
for
okay.
for more years, you guys. So when when Wardsboro and Dover joined, became River Valleys, we used ours because we were a little higher than you folks.
Right.
So what do you all think of that? I don't even know what selectmen are doing.
I suggested that the Dover Select Board upped theirs either 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago, to 2,500 and 3,000.
This is for,
Did
this
they,
is for.
they did do that?
Article 4.
This was the second, it's either the second or
they-
third year that they voted for it at that
Yeah.
rate. So,
I don't, I'm good with where we're at.
Do you need a motion for this?
No, we gotta decide, we're gonna do straw poll, and then we need a motion to approve this whole thing.
Okay.
So,
I don't know, like, it's definitely, I can see why you'd say that, it's definitely a lot of time, effort, and energy, but I don't feel strongly that we need to raise it up at this point in the game.
okay, go ahead.
I would support raising it to go up with the select board. It is becoming harder and harder to have candidates run. And people's time is valuable. Childcare, other issues, technology, et cetera. So I would support it, raising it to what the Dover Select Board. So that's $500, I think. So it'd be a total of
3,000, because it's 6
$3,000.
people.
Yeah, so I'd support that.
Dwight?
Well, it was a big jump for us from Wardsboro.
Was it 200?
Yeah, it was like $200 when we were doing it in Wardsboro. I am comfortable with where it's at.
Chad?
To be quite frank, when I put my hat in the ring to fill in the vacancy by Mr. Thorpe, I had no idea it was even a paid position. And I'm certainly no saint in this world, but this is something I feel is very important to the community. And to be quite frank, if this is what allows us to keep one more student as a sending town rate, I'm fine with where it is.
Okay, my only comment is, I was good with nothing for a while, and we went to nothing when Act 60 first came in, and then I got chastised pretty hard at a school board meeting because by not, you remember that, were you reporting at that time? Because by not having a number in there, it prevented some people from running because it cost them money to be on the school board because they had to pay somebody to watch their kids and they couldn't. And it was an eye-opener. So one of the comments that was made at the time was, if you get your money and you don't need it to cover something, we had one school board member, Judy Saffron, for years, had the Judy Saffron Fund, and she gave her paycheck to the principal in cash, and then they used it for like students that needed something. If a student was going to be going through the 6th grade graduation and didn't have decent clothes, and she had limits on it. So I think even if just because it's there doesn't mean you have to take it if you don't want to take it. And Chad, my wife just retired too, but she didn't have a good retirement as I. So if you want to donate yours to me because you don't need it, I'll be more than happy to take it. But, I mean, so that just is in consideration, okay? Go ahead.
I just want to say that it's still very low. You look at Wyndham Southeast, they're at, I believe, $7,500.
Yeah, well, they probably need it down there.
I would challenge us to see if we could run our meetings more efficiently to be mindful of our time, the administration's time, and the community members' time. So if we could find a way to be more efficient with all of our efforts.
Okay, so I'm going to make it real efficient. You all ready to vote? We're not voting, but just a straw poll. What do you want to do? Do we want to raise it, or do we want to leave it where it's at? Go ahead, you go first.
I'll meet you halfway. Was it 20? We'll do $250 each one.
Kate.
Laura, did you have the number for a reason? Like, was it in alignment with?
Oh, it was Mark.
Mark.
Okay,
Was it in alignment with exactly what you were doing with the Dover Select Board?
It's what the Dover
That would
Select
be a
Board
10%
did a couple of
increase.
years ago.
$250.
Yeah, but remember, if you look at it over 10 years, it's a 1% increase. So Chad, I'm sorry. Dwight is saying $250 increase all around. What do you think, Kate? Remember, the voters get to vote on it too. They may say
Yeah.
you get nothing,
Yep, that's totally
like
fine.
totally nothing.
I'll go with Mark and the full rate just to keep it even with the select board.
Yeah, I can support Mark's data-driven discussion.
I can as well, and I thank you for bringing us back to the privilege that some of us have to be able to serve, run for office and serve in public service. And for some folks they have to use this time to support their families, so.
So Mark, we're gonna go there. The mileage is the same as always, the surplus is the same as always. And now when I need the administration, Lori's
I
gone too.
have it.
Go ahead. So whatever that number is.
It's 20, give me a second. I had it up a second ago. It's 22,000 and change.
No.
No, it's 19,987.
For 24?
We're talking about Article 7?
Yes.
24?
Yeah, it's 19,987.
I think that's for 23.
No.
Oh.
No, I'm pretty sure that was the number.
Can we say the number
Let's save it
that
for
Lori, can we say
Yeah.
the number
We'll
that
just
Lori
get
and
it.
Bill validate?
We want that number. I mean,
Okay.
whatever that number is, that's the number. And
So I'm reading again on the Burton website. Tuition for the 2023-24 school year is $19,987 for sending towns and $22,487 for students who do not reside in a sending town.
okay.
Because last year it was 19.2. Right.
So we approved the budget number in Article 8, so that number will just go in there.
That's fine.
And Lori gave me those other numbers. So for the building, we decided on 100. In transportation, we went to 50.
Yes.
And withdraw money from the reserve fund, but not more than 80.
Correct. Right.
And then Article 11 will be the Beth petition, Article 12.
Hold on a second, you went too fast.
You were visiting, so you lost the right.
Well, Article 8 is a legal issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Act 1 of 2023 changed the law. We should take out the last sentence, the last two sentences.
It says you don't have to do it, but you can do it if you want to, and voters have liked it, so it's up to you guys.
It doesn't make any sense though. You're not actually giving them any information that's...
We're giving them per equalized pupil. It's up to you guys, so go back to Article 8. Several years ago, we had to include this because I think it was when Douglas was governor. This was how we were going to control education spending. It used to be a two-part vote, so you could vote one amount of money and then you would vote a second amount of money. Then they did away with that. We left this in here the last few years. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever you guys said. I thought some people liked it because it kind of gave them a feeling for what's going on.
It's suspended for 2023 and 2024.
Right.
The last 2 years, you still had to have it.
Okay. I thought last year it was suspended.
Nope.
Okay. It's up to you guys. Do you want to take it out?
It's
The whole article or just the
No,
last
it's the part that starts,
No,
it is estimated. So the third line.
Okay, so Chad, in or out?
Out.
Kate?
Kill it.
Dwight?
I kind of like it. I think it's, so
Okay.
keep it, yeah.
Mark has been, well, we lose.
I'm gonna say out.
No, I already knew you guys said out, so it's gone.
I didn't say it until I just said it.
All right.
9, 10 is good, is 80,000. 11 is the Beth petition,
Wait,
12.
150.
Yeah.
100,000 and 50,000.
150.
Right, that's what I said.
Oh, 80,000
Building
for
is
the next
100.
one. Okay.
80,000.
Article 10 is 80.
80.
Article 11 is the Beth petition. Article 12 is,
Any other business?
yep, Article 13 is the Australian ballot.
Insurance ballot.
Article 14 is the moderator, and Article 15 is to adjourn.
Do we need to raise that 200 to attract somebody?
What 200?
The stipend for the moderator.
No, it wasn't that.
So when like they go through the moderator training, is that something they get reimbursed by us and things like that?
He chose not to, but yeah, it's not, it doesn't cost you anything to go to training. It's offered by the LCT.
Okay.
It's just, it is, when you listen to the guys talk, you've got somebody who wants to come in now.
Oh,
I don't know how
Mr.
I saw
Cutler.
that. But, so, can I get a motion to approve the articles as discussed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who's got a really nice pen?
Not me, give me.
Is purple okay?
No.
You like that one?
Can I use your pen so I don't sign in purple?
So what we did is the signature page is a separate page so that when I make all the
Right.
mistakes, we can correct them, okay? Okay, good job,
You have
folks.
the 2022 one, right? So you have the language?
Yeah, you gave it to me.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I got it. I'm gonna fix it tomorrow at work. Okay. So we approved the warning. Old business is done. Building updates is done. Draft annual report. So were there some questions on the draft annual report? Any comments?
A lot.
Okay. Matt, I'm gonna pick on you. Can you take some notes, or you're doing the meeting, can you take some notes for me, Tammy? Okay, so you got a draft of the annual report. Thank you, Beth Petition. Hey, also, while we're preparing that, Meredith, we got 2 more people that are live here.
Oh, let me see.
Meredith?
Yes.
Okay, I got 2 more live people. Go ahead.
Tennille Cutler from Wardsboro and Deirdre Benson from Dover.
Okay.
You got them? And then also, there's somebody on here is call-in user 1. Can you tell us who you are? Call-in user 1, please identify yourself.
Do you know what the command is to unmute?
*6 to unmute yourself.
Good catch, Kate.
I don't remember how to do
There
things.
they go.
I didn't know I was calling, sorry, user 1. I'm Elisa Rich from Dover.
Thank
Well,
you.
you were both places.
Which on both?
Okay, so we already identified Dana, so we're all good with who's here. Oh, Nicole from IBM, I think she's been in a couple times, but Meredith, I think we're all set then. We got everybody. So let's talk, folks, about the annual report we're sending out. So, Mark, you talked a lot today, so I'm gonna get somebody else to crack at it first, and then I'll get to you. You did yours in color. Chad, anything on the unified report?
I didn't catch anything reopening here.
Okay, there should be a hard copy on your desk too, if you want.
In the packet that the.
I didn't get a copy.
Here.
Because I was coming in. Thank you.
Okay.
Kinda.
Kate?
So, first off, man, the kids in our community are cute. Let me just say that.
How many of them are yours?
2 of them. 2 of them are mine.
In here?
Pardon?
We both made it.
Well, they're like, yeah, they're both right there, and then I saw, yeah, right there. So the letters from the principals, do we wanna,
That's their letter, so
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, those are
usually-
written prior to.
yeah, do you guys wanna make any edits?
Holy mackerel.
Which this is
I don't know, or if you wanna just leave as is.
Let's
You guys can think about it, yeah, but just,
Do you have a
Warm, Gibson.
Oh, yeah, that's just people.
As a parent, would you like to know, or is it not really?
Okay, hey, yeah, so
we
if,
look, maybe just putting something there.
Kate,
Yeah,
so if there's something wrong with their letter, just talk to them offline. Go ahead. You got anything else?
nope, that was all, and then I noticed Lori did a great job, like, making the thing so that people
Lines.
can,
To change the
yeah, do all of that, so that was good.
30 or 1%.
Okay.
No funny lines.
We'll probably get attached to.
Dwight?
just a comment, I guess, that for the placement data for the, where the secondary students are going.
What
just
page is that?
I don't know.
They're not numbered, okay. Oh, here, it's like the 4th page in.
Maybe I just got, I'm not sure why we need to differentiate between the towns, in an effort for inclusion, why don't we just have the one pie and kind of take out the towns? They're pretty much identical anyway, but I'm just wondering if we just have the one instead of all 3.
I thought that was asked of us one year. Do you remember Lauren, Mark, or Kate, anybody?
Which part?
The data, like where students are going, I thought we had been asked one year, well, how many students?
So, Richard, I
Yeah.
think if I am hearing Dwight correctly, what he's asking for is not to segregate the pie charts.
Right.
But to keep the data about where students are going, which is what we've been asked for
Correct.
in the past. And is it?
Okay, how does everybody feel about that?
So we keep the charts, but we get rid of the.
Just the big,
No,
just the big one. Just
Keep the big one. I
do
mean, they're
away
pretty
with
much
those
the
two.
same, but.
Oh, so take out the Wardsboro versus Dover?
Right.
Wow, they are really similar.
So,
Well, I think that's pretty cool. That's why I think.
yeah, it's
it
pretty
would
cool.
hurt to-
That is cool, but, you know, I think.
But it's also down below. You can see it.
You can
just
see it
don't
down below, just don't see the chart. Yeah, that's true.
Well, let's make a decision, folks. Chad, what do you think? Do you have it now? Yes.
Yeah, I do have it. I mean, I like the idea of the inclusion. Yeah, leave it at that.
Kate?
I would say leave it, because I think it shows, yeah. But, well, yeah.
Mark?
I could care less, as long as the data is there. I don't care about the pie charts.
Laura?
Yeah, the pie charts, I don't really care about. I would almost rather see segregation of the data below, but I don't think it's necessary at this point, so,
You're talking about the left-hand side?
yeah. I think it's, I think that I don't care enough and can go with the majority on this, so.
Okay, so I don't think there's a majority.
I'll flip, I'll go with the, yeah, we can.
Okay, so do away with those two.
Just have the one.
Just do the big
Yeah,
one.
because it's just one pie, and then everything down below gives you all the specific.
Because we're the
information before.
unified school district, so you're.
Yeah, I like that.
When you think about it like that, we're unified.
So, but keep them separate on the two below. Keep the Wardsboro data in the,
Yeah.
In the graph
Yeah,
on the
everything-
bottom,
'cause
but just
that-
do away with the two round charts.
and what about the decimal points? I was wondering, like, could we really actually
Take
have a decimal?
them out.
Yeah,
I have a big circle around there.
Yeah.
Take them out.
That's why I let Mark go last, because I figured everybody else would cover
That's a
some
good
of
point.
his.
Half of
You
it
gotta
goes
go.
there, right?
Okay, Laura, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for doing, as always, such a great job helping our group come to consensus.
Here, Shannon.
I will.
Rich, can I just ask her to take a look at the Leland Gray letter before she leaves?
Have you seen it? Just give it to her and she can comment.
I did read it, yeah, I saw it.
Let's keep moving forward on the, on this. What else you got, Dwight?
That's it.
That was it?
That was it.
Oh, Laura, do you have anything in, before you, if you're running, do you have anything here that bothered you? Or did you like to see that you didn't see?
No, I'm so happy that someone else is doing that, and it's always outstanding, and I can't wait to see this year's.
Go ahead, Mark. Thank you, Laura.
So I'm assuming this is not going to get folded in half because it's going to be too many pages.
I think it's getting mailed as a booklet. Right, Bill?
It'll be,
So, two things. One, maybe it's just me, but I look at all these boxes of colors with different squiggly lines, and I get dizzy. But more importantly, I think the front page should have the details of the annual meeting, date, time, and location, and the date, time, and location of our budget meetings and the election.
And the date is wrong on the front cover. That's a,
Yes.
thank you.
That is very true.
Okay.
The dates are on everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, Tammy's trying to type this, folks, too, so. So at least we gotta change the dates. What's everybody's feeling on the, on putting at least the dates and times of voting and location and date, time of the annual meeting?
That's a healthy reminder.
I think I would just do the time and location of the annual meeting.
Right, we're not gonna do the whole warning on the front.
Oh, okay, good.
No, just, I think what you're saying,
I'm
Mark,
saying
right?
basically,
Take a box.
Take the page in half. The top can be like graphics and the bottom is just like it was in our original one. It's just a box that has a date, the dates of the election, where you vote, and then the date, time, and location of the annual meeting.
I kind of like it the way it's set up and put the voting here and the annual meeting here, because voting comes first in the annual meeting.
I don't care what order you put it in, this I think should be an informational. This is what people are gonna see. We can't put anything on the back, because that's where the address goes.
Yeah.
Right.
So the only place we have is the front to
Okay.
put information.
Sounds good.
Also, I'm not sure how it happened, but the logo's wrong. Well, the word mark is wrong. There should be no outline or shadow.
Is that on the front cover?
It's not in the front cover, yeah.
It is?
The word mark. Well, actually, there should be no.
So with this logo
There should be no
versus that
shadow
logo?
on the logo either. There's a shadow there. The actual logo has no shadow. But the word mark, River Valley's Unified School District, is just the flat letters in the.
Oh, so this is.
Oh, the
approved logo.
So basically, Lori, I'm sorry, Tammy, they just said, we gotta make sure it's the right logo that we're going with.
Okay.
Page 2.
There's no list of board members and terms. We had that last year. We
Well,
reposted that.
right where we took out those other 2 pie charts,
There you go.
I don't know if that's a good spot.
there's
Well,
also.
what's this page?
There's some blank
That's the
pages.
warning, that's the warning.
Yeah, but the warning's gonna be 2 pages now.
It was
Maybe 3 pages.
It's reserved. It's reserved 2 pages in there
Maybe
now.
3.
Well, that gives us more room to put up things. So just a list of board members and our terms.
The board members are beside the warning.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you what the
Yeah,
terms
your
are.
terms. Okay.
They wanna know how long they gotta put up with you and I'm like,
Yeah.
We did it last year. We actually had a section for board terms.
Okay.
I think we should have some contact information. I think we've been missing this every year. Contact information for superintendent, principals, school phone numbers, stuff like that.
I think if we want folks, we can put in how to contact the schools. And through the schools, you can get the administrators. We don't know who they're gonna be next year.
Oh, yeah, you can't do it by name.
No, not by name.
Right, so just if you contact the Dover School at 464-5386 and the Wardsboro School at 896.
996 something.
Tammy used to be here.
6055, that's the town.
Okay.
The capital budgets you got, the reserve funds, fund balances, but I don't know if we wanted to have that in there. We did last year, I think.
Yeah, I thought I asked for that. Can you also add fund balances?
Fund balances?
Fund balance, yeah. Balances. The funds balances out. That's it, Kate. I'm all done. You take over. I'm cooked.
You gotta bake a little bit longer. Last year we had
I didn't even eat one of those brownies
a short list of major budget changes year over year, or over under type thing. There isn't in this.
Yeah, and I don't want to, did we do it last year?
Yep. Just a small box.
Well, I thought Lori somewhere had kind of where the changes are.
Still missed it. Nope. So that's up to you guys whether you want to have it. I think it's good for the taxpayers to just have it.
Hey, this isn't supposed to be in our packet, is it, from the Wyndham Career Center?
That's mine. I accidentally copied, it's okay.
Well, it's got.
You are looking for a job, huh?
You can give it to me.
Yeah, hey, folks, give that to Bill, because that's got students' names on it, I'm sorry.
Well,
I didn't have that.
it's not unbelievably unpublished, it does.
I was looking at that, wondering what it was,
I would
sorry.
think.
Hey,
The,
can you hold on one second?
Yeah.
Bill, I don't know if we need you anymore.
That would be awesome.
Because I don't see anything else. Board solar update, board subcommittees, discussion.
Just make sure correspondence, Chad, right, just remind Rich.
Will you give me one?
What's that, correspondence?
Yes.
Hey Meredith, you wanna mute yourself?
I'm gonna come out.
Meredith.
Meredith, mute yourself.
Yes, let's let Bill go. That's a great idea.
What a great idea.
Could we take a minute? I'd like his input on the Leland Gray letter since Bob's not
Okay.
here.
Hey,
Oh,
hey,
Bob
folks.
is still here.
Folks,
Bob's still here, and I just sent him the letter.
Did you? Okay.
do you have any comments on it?
I do not.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mark, finish up on the,
We talked about adding an FAQ with terms, which we had in we had them in 2021, defined like CLA and EQP, things like that. I think Lori was just gonna pull what she already had, which she also gave us at the beginning of budget season. She just may need a reminder to put it in there. And then my last comment, besides the fact that your Latin isn't very good, Rich.
yeah, and I sent that report out to everybody. Did you guys not see it? I sent out the
letter?
The letter,
We
yeah.
didn't go with
The one I wrote for this.
Only other comment is, I think on the budget, that the total lines should be colored, because I think it's just a little hard to follow. So just wherever there's a line that has a total, like total other restricted, just like a light blue or something, just to separate it out.
Did you get all that?
I'm gonna go over it with you just in case.
Okay, so go ahead
Okay.
and go over it.
All right. So I have, the logo is wrong that we have, so it should be the one without the shadow. And I think Matt sent over that info.
Yeah, I think she just must have added that,
Yeah.
be creative.
On the front pages, we'd like to include the correct date, the time, and did you say the voting info?
Yeah, where and when
Okay.
and to vote.
Okay.
So date, time, location for voting and the annual meeting. So people go to Woodsboro and not Dover.
Because if they drive by and don't see the big top, they may not stop.
You want a tent again?
No, I never want to be under the tent again. It was tough.
Matt and I will talk about revising our letter and getting it over to Liz. The placement data page, that you do not want to differentiate the towns in the pie chart, so take out the two separate town pie charts, keep the one pie chart in the graph down below, take out the decimal points in the student numbers.
Because we only educate whole students, the whole student.
Well, we educate students wholly as well.
Wholly, thank you, Chad. That's why Chad's here.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd like to include the both schools' contact information with the phone numbers. Add the fund balances.
Yeah.
And was there another?
The capital budget, which I think she was already doing.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
that.
The list of board members and their terms.
I've got that. I don't have the terms, so I don't know
I'll get
where
that for you.
everyone's
Just
at. Okay.
I'll send that.
I'll note ask Rich for this.
Yeah, Mark and Kate are 23.
And then Dwight and Laura,
No,
no, Dwight and you, are you?
Are 24, and Chad and Laura are 25. I wish I was 24 again, don't you, Dwight?
Stay awake.
So Kate and
Why are you
Dwight.
laughing? I'm only 25.
Kate and Mark are 23.
With all the money and all the knowledge I have, right?
Rich is 24.
Thank you.
24?
And Holden.
24.
With like 26 experience.
Dwight's 24.
24?
And then Chad's 25, right?
Yep.
Chad and Laura.
And Laura is 25. Got it. And then on the budget total lines, we'd like to differentiate with a,
The subtotals.
The lines that they literally say total one,
Yeah,
total
yeah,
two.
yeah.
Just color them in, so that the
Fill the boxes.
the FAQ, which Lori has
right, yeah.
definitions. And you did not want an over under or something like that.
So remember, folks, I used to do that over-under sheet. I called it the Kathy Kaufman, Charlotte Bond over-under, because she'd always just look for differences in budgets. It's she would say, oh, well, it's $100 here. Why? It's, because the percentages went down, or we saved money, or we didn't spend as much. So do you guys think that's important? You guys are public. Do you think it's important when you look at the budget?
I don't.
How about the board? Kate?
No.
Not as much, no.
Okay, so no, I think we've got a lot more information than we've ever had in a report before. So, go ahead.
That's all I got.
Mark, was that everything you had?
I have one other thing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna come back to you. So Chad, with all this new stuff, are you okay with the report if those changes are made?
Yes.
You don't have anything with any of
I
those
do not.
changes? Kate, are you all set?
I'm happy with the edits discussed this evening.
Okay, you all set?
Good.
Mark,
The-
final call for,
Two last things. The circle is part of the logo, it's not separate, so I'd like to see that taken off of the tops of pages. And the public tuition amount, the state average tuition amount, which we had in last year's.
well, that should go on the tuition page.
Yeah.
So we just have to add the statewide average.
On page 7.
That's the page with the chart.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Average or,
the statewide average, yeah, for next year. So people can look and see what the statewide average and what what Leland and Gray, Brattleboro, and Twin Valley is charging.
Oh, on a list of.
Yeah. Is everybody good with that? Can you make sure you send that to Meredith too?
sure.
So Meredith, we'll send that to you, okay?
Thank you.
Is everybody good? Okay. One more thing put to bed. So, approved warning, building updates, draft annual report. Mark, you all set? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, so next thing I have is solar update. I'm gonna pass on that. We'll talk about that next time. I gotta get you on that.
Yep, that was my note from our last meeting.
Okay, I know, but it's
That's,
late. I did ask Lori to kind of go through and see if we have capacity to take more, if it would make sense for us.
right.
And she's supposed to do that for us, and then I'm gonna put you in touch with the guy from the fire district. John Priel is his name. Okay, board subcommittees. Mark brought this up. Mark, can we go over this? Because I think we can talk to that in another meeting.
We can, it's really quick.
Go
Just that we reconstitute our committees at the reorganizational meeting. Technically, committees don't continue
Okay,
Which is the meeting following the election.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
After the annual meeting, yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
transportation,
Where are they?
WIC, transportation, WIC,
Policy.
website implementation, and policy.
Policy.
Yeah.
Anything else we decide on?
we can make committees anytime.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip over SB 66 for a second. Letter to Red, reason IB. So Mark had wanted to send a letter to Leland and Gray because they're working on,
Long-term planning.
yeah, and he was just gonna suggest, that the Dover building has had the IB now for 7 years since Matt's been here. So, and some people really, really like it, but there's no high school locally to go to if you want to continue with that IB track. So I think, Mark, it was a really, Bob, I'm sorry too, this is something for you, kind of. So one of the things Mark thought was if maybe Leland and Gray offered the IB track, maybe they would pull some more tuition students and help you guys out, and also help the parents that want to continue on that track. So we wrote a letter to Al as chairman of the West River Board and to the board. So did everybody get to see it?
Yes.
Does anybody have a problem with us signing it or letting Mark sign it on behalf of the board? It's coming from the board, not specifically from Mark, but.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it says at the end, if you can arrange to meet and discuss further exciting possibilities, which I'm wondering if we could request to serve on either, or not serve, but to be a member or an ad hoc member of a committee that Leland and Gray has to formulate some of these ideas, so we could present those ideas at a board meeting. Is that something could they take?
We could, if it's something their board is interested in, what we could do is have a joint meeting with them, or we could send some emissaries bearing gifts to their board meeting. So that's how it would go. So
we wouldn't actually, okay.
They may be too far along in their process, and that's really a question for
we should
Bob.
ask Bob about that.
Well, no matter how far along they are, they could change, or they could add this, so.
I still want to send it, but.
I think Bob has.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you guys to send it. I suspect it would be an interesting conversation. The West River District has undergone this long-term planning. It's more about buildings and configurations. The NEASC element was part of it, getting accredited again. But one of the things that, I don't know a ton about IV, but what I do know is that project-based learning fits in pretty well with it, and that has been our focus at Leland Gray since COVID. So it seems like it could be an interesting marriage, and sending this along. My guess is that Al would ask us to consider it and report back to them once they got this letter. And then, Dana Quadra, who's going to be the new principal after I'm moving up, he's currently my assistant principal. My guess is that he would put together a small committee and kind of look at it a little bit, and that could involve some conversations with Matt or staff from Dover and learn a little bit more about how it might blend with what we're already doing. So it doesn't have much to do with long-term planning, because that's more about the facilities. But the NEASC process and just sort of the direction that Leland Gray's been going in, I think it would be a great conversation to have.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. So I don't think we need a vote. If nobody has a problem with it, Mark, why don't you just get a clean copy signed and give it to Matt, Tammy to get over to Leland and Gray. I want to compliment Mark on something. So we found out that when we went with this, everybody votes for all the board members. We needed to get 60 signatures, which isn't undoable. We got 3 people do it this year. However, it's a lot more than your normal 1% or, like 20 signatures. So Mark actually had some connection with the senator up north. So they actually have put in a bill to make us with the unified district the same as the Leland and Gray district. We only need the 30 signatures.
It's 30 or 1%, whichever is less.
So,
which is what the law was before they rewrote Chapter 11 last year.
So I'm also going to call this person and see if they'll give us an amendment. Those that got 60 this year can use the extra 30 in 2 more years, so that they only had to do it once. So Mark, thank you. That was some good work on your part.
So this isn't effective this year?
No, it's all over.
It's over anyway.
Yeah, and the bill is in Senate Education, and it missed crossover. They'll probably attach it. They're getting a House miscellaneous bill. They'll probably attach it to that and send it back to the House for their consideration.
And nothing that's ever proposed comes out the other end the same. And if you don't believe it, just follow some bills. On the consent agenda, we have the March 6, 2023 minutes. Meredith, those were very well done. You did a great job. I really appreciate it. You're giving Peter a run for his money. So thank you.
Thank you.
So did anybody have any comments?
Minutes?
Yeah, the minutes. Okay, so by unanimous consent, we'll approve them. We missed last meeting, Chad caught it and I didn't, and I'm not as, toasted this week as I was last time. But we did receive, I want to just recognize, we did receive a letter from a parent specific to a student issue, and that was turned over to the administration. It's not, the board is not, it's not something the board weighs in on. So I did confirm with the administration that they got the letter and that they're going to deal with it. And that they also explained to the parent that, the proper procedure where you have to go to the classroom teacher, you have to go to the administrator in the building, and then you go to the superintendent, thank you, and then you can come to the board if you still feel that you have not been treated properly.
Follow the complaint procedures, in other words.
Pretty much, but I want to change complaint policy because that has a negative connotation to people. I made a comment at a meeting once that the complainant comes, so their complaint must have been dealt with, what they were complaining about must have been dealt with because they didn't get to the board. And it was brought out that, it's not always complaining, it's bringing concern. So next time we redo that policy, we're gonna have to change the word.
After the, it's scheduled to
come up soon.
To come up after the annual meeting.
And then I just want one other quick thing. Bob missed it, but last Wednesday, we had a WCSU board meeting, which I missed my first one in 20 some odd years, sorry. I was a little preoccupied with that white stuff falling out of the sky, making Dwight happy. But we, today the executive committee did meet and we did approve to advertise for an equity diversity person to be hired for the district. So I think probably Bob already had the ad already written and out the door. So that's a good thing, I hope.
Definitely a good thing.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I hope that we can, I always hate hiring this late in the year because, and then I think if that's everything, our next meeting is April 3rd. I want to jump back to SB 66 and HB 258, discussions on hearing from citizens. So I think we're kind of going to do that at the annual meeting. But we did say that if people had any comments or questions, we would take it at this time. So if anybody would like to comment on those, the school, kind of been called the school choice bills, I'm going to ask that you restrict your time to.
Yeah. Before you go, I think the purpose of that item was to discuss having a meeting. Laura was going to bring in a lawyer, possibly do a joint hearing. I don't think it was to actually have a discussion today.
And I think it didn't it also depend on where the House and because did it move forward?
Neither of these did, but the House Ed passed out a committee bill Friday.
But I don't know if we're going to be actually.
But it doesn't do most of what was in 66 or 258. But those may come up next year.
But again, things can change because no matter what's passed across. So would it make sense then to get a copy of that bill?
Well, I don't think we're supposed to be the experts. We're not the experts on the bills, and that wasn't something we were looking to. What I was looking for was just some comments from the public, just to get a kind of sense of how we feel on this issue. I don't know if it's required to have an attorney for us because we're not actually providing any information other than listening.
Yeah, I think what Mark's saying was Laura was trying to. There's some constitutional issues, and how they, they're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So
it is a constitutional issue, right?
Well, I did have one very specific question. I do wish that Laura was still able to remain because she might have been able to add some clarity to this question. And it goes, I do have a copy of the bill.
483 or?
Well, this was 258, as we're discussing it. And
258 is dead now.
Right.
For this term.
For the moment, yes. Right. So, but still my question exists. It's, again, Mark, as you've talked about procedure, I'd like to learn a little bit more. One of the four elements, the four criteria that was posited in this bill that the schools must satisfy 3 out of the 4. One, letter C in this was the the recognized independent school qualified as a public school under the definition of quote-unquote public school in effect on June 30th, 1991 under subdivision 11A7 of this title. My question is, how is it allowable to use a part of that subsection in title that has already been rewritten? So doesn't that make the definition of public school they're trying to use moot?
No, they're trying to use the definition of public school that was in effect up until 1991.
But at the current time, that's what I'm saying, because at the current, it's been rewritten, we have a difference, so how can we use something that has already been rewritten? Because it's after the fact.
They can do it.
So what they're saying is the definition will not be the current definition, it's the one that was written back on that that was in effect at that time.
Yeah, I understand what they're saying we're gonna do, but again, how do we use something that is no longer valid because it's been rewritten, so it's invalidated? So, doesn't that pose a potential challenge to say, hey, you've used something that doesn't exist anymore? We're essentially looking to rewrite a rule that is ex post facto based on information that's old and done.
It still exists, it just isn't the current statute.
Right, so therefore the current
historical.
statute wouldn't be effective, correct?
Well, if you look at all the statutes, they usually don't just like throw the book out and rewrite the whole book. If you go through the book, there's all these cross-outs and all these sections that don't exist anymore. And a lot of times when they change statute, you'll see that they'll take out a little chunk and they'll add a chunk here, and it all gets moved around. So I think it's more of a procedural issue on how they account for it, because what happens is when the court, if there was a court challenge, the court needs to make a decision. They're not just looking at what the current law is they look at the history of what's gone on in the past. So, but I think that's more of a procedural thing. I think, and maybe what we could do is we can ask for a class or a lesson on how the legislature really works. Because, I mean, those are good points and good comments.
Of course, I think we'd all agree that that should be in our current curriculum as it is.
Yeah. No.
For our students, anyhow.
Yeah.
Legal class?
How a bill becomes a law, right? We'll go back to Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes, it absolutely should be.
Chad, if you start singing, I'm gonna.
That's not my thing. That's not my thing.
So I think, so I don't know, what does all the board want to do?
So can I just make one comment?
Yep, you can one comment you want.
As you all got the email that Bill sent out a few days ago, I think a few days ago, about VSBA, VSA webinar. Forgetting about the school choice, private, independent, public, that if you're interested in getting a really good feel for the legal foundation that this is all based on, watch it. They'll send out the link. It was a really good webinar today.
Okay.
I thought the purpose of it was to get some feedback, and it seems like there are a lot of people on this call for possibly this reason, to give their opinion about this, and so the board can understand where maybe I'm wrong. If some hands go up, maybe but I think that was the opportunity to get some feedback.
Okay, so what I think we'll do, if everybody on the board is good with it, we had a lot more people join than when we did members of the public, so we'll go one more time through members of the public. Okay, so you guys are live, not Memorex. So do you have any comments for public?
I'm here to take it all in, hear what people have to say, so I'm good for right now, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think I have more questions than we have time for right now. I've sat in on a couple of Laura's open forums, and I mean, I'm thankful to hear that those bills didn't move forward because I'm not for them, and I appreciate that there is an issue with civil rights being supported, and I know that you guys don't have control over this, but as my feedback, I think the eliminating school choice in this area, which has been hugely beneficial to my family and I know lots of others, doesn't resolve the issue of discrimination. So I think they're different things, and so I'm hopeful that we can find a way to continue to support choice that looks pretty similar to what we have it looking like right now for my friends that have little kids and that are living in this area for that. So I'm hopeful that we can come up with a solution in that way.
Thank you. No. Alan, we said we would listen to the public.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm here.
Constitutional one.
Go ahead, you have your hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
I do. I just sort of wanted to reiterate a point I've been making a lot, which is I really think that it would behoove the board to be well advised by using some of the public information out there, a seminar like Mark's got, your counsel, constitutional counsel supplied by the state or your representative or whatever, just to be aware of where the current state is going and the litigation that's going to ensue and that's already in the works. obviously you had this development with the athletic program with the boy, where the school refused or who boycotted, was removed from all competition. So that's the next sort of salvo in this fight, and I just wanted to let everyone know that it pays to pay attention and be prepared.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Sean, or Mrs. Buns.
No, it's Sean. I'm here.
Hey, Sean.
This is something very new for us, being very close to the community. Realize how important now having a 1-year-old school of choice, and it's very, I've witnessed excellent, respectful kids through the friends around us. And I think that gives the opportunity to choose your school to get that benefit, and something that we look forward to for our son. Now, mind you, there is definitely concern when it comes to how the process goes forward, but it's something that we look forward to as new parents for the future of our son.
Thank you, sir. Kevin and/or Tricia. Really gonna be in trouble if they move. I'm gonna skip Kevin. Patricia. Patricia leave us?
No, she moved.
Okay.
She moved. I don't think she's there.
Stephanie. Anybody else? Alyssa or Cutler? Oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, I just want to reiterate that I think that it is really important that we obviously respect the ability to not discriminate against the citizens of Vermont as we're trying to look at educational opportunities. But I also think that that's a delicate balance, because school choice is something that is unique, and it is definitely something that attracts families from out of state to come to these communities, and specifically to mountain communities where these mountains are attracting executives. They're attracting corporate people from other areas to bring their families and move them here. And one of the big benefits that we have when we move to these communities, as someone who's done that, is school choice. And to dramatically change it and to eliminate a school like Burr and Burton, or to greatly regulate them, where families are responsible for making up the difference, is going to be prohibitive. That is going to be, I am confident in speaking with fellow families that have moved to this area that is going to change people's decisions. And that is going to hurt our communities. That is going to hurt the diversity that exists in our communities. It's going to hurt the mountains that provide so many opportunities for people in these towns, not just Mount Snow, but also Stratton. And I think that this board should absolutely, based on the outpouring of support and the feedback that the community has provided to this board about their opinions against these bills to dramatically change the way that school choice is being done, I think the board should absolutely support a measure that states unequivocally that they are not in favor of changing the school choice the way that many of these bills are stating. I don't disagree that something needs to change, but I think we need to think harder and smarter about how to do it. I also want to just state that even before the main Supreme Court decision, that I think is the catalyst for many of these discussions, there were talks on this board prior to that decision about essentially gutting school choice. And there were bills that were presented and amendments that were presented by board members to have this board state that they were in favor of changing
Stephanie, I'm going to cut you off, because this board has never had a discussion onto that, and this board has never had a vote. So I don't know where you get that from, so I'm.
I am speaking, I'm happy to tell you, Rich, I'm speaking about an amendment that Mark submitted to this board wherein he was asking, it was a lobbying position that was presented to this board to support about changing the way
And the board didn't support it,
school choice
Stephanie.
operates. And the board voted against it. I'm just saying that that was presented before this decision.
It wasn't about changing choice.
So I don't think that it's only, because of this decision. I think there were underlying currents that existed prior to that decision where there were people in legislature, lobbying organizations that were trying to change this even before. So
Stephanie,
that's what I just want to say.
Stephanie, it's been going on ever since I've been on the board. There's been times that the town has discussed that without the board. So I understand that, but to say that this board was supporting is not correct, and I just need to.
I apologize.
need that
I'm not
corrected.
saying the board was supporting.
Or that I brought that to the board.
Hang on.
No,
There's a member of the board.
that is not what I brought to the board.
Okay, Mark, stop for a second. Stephanie, are you done? Are you all set?
Sure.
No, I mean, you can go on. I'm just trying to get the meeting back in order. Are you?
I didn't realize that my comments made the meeting go out of order. I apologize.
No,
I was just trying to state that this is not something that only happens because of it. That bill that we also rallied family members to come and be present to talk about that proposal, that is something that happened before this. So this is not just because of that. There are underlying currents that are happening, and I want to applaud the members of the community who are coming and speaking out, and I do think that the board should absolutely, based on the fact that this board represents the communities of Dover and Wardsboro, and they need to speak out to represent those parents. That's all I have to say.
Stephanie, I did not say you were out of order. I said we were losing order in the meeting and that you made a comment that was false, and I wanted that corrected because I didn't want that to linger, okay? And I just want to make sure that you had the chance to finish. That's why I said, were you done? I was trying to get the order back in the meeting, okay?
Okay, that's fine, but I do think that, and I apologize if what I said was if I misrepresented what I had intended to say, that there was an amendment or a proposal that was submitted by a board member for this board's consideration that would have asked for, it feels like this board is always going after Burton, and there are lots of family members in here. So I just am saying that there was something, I don't know exactly what the terminology is of what it exactly was, but there was a proposal that was submitted by a board member that we all was considered, the board voted on it. But I'm just trying to make the point, the nuance, that this is not just because of that. There's underlying currents that are happening. And it's important for us all as community members and as you as our representatives to be aware that there are other things that are happening here. And we need to keep our eyes open, and it is important for this board to represent the interests of the community who comes and speaks out at these meetings. We are here, we are speaking, and we need our board to listen to us and to act on our behalf. That is what I would like to say. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate everything that the board does. It is a thankless job in many ways. That is my point, that I want my board to represent the interests that we're all hearing. People that are coming to these meetings care, they're passionate, people are engaging, and we need our board to represent our interests. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alyssa or Jay or Nicole? Anybody else? Okay.
I want to respond to that because that was incorrect information.
Okay.
What I brought to the board was a resolution for the VSBA to bring transparency to independent schools. As taxpayers, we have the right to know where our money is going, whether it's going to independent school, private school, or to public schools. We already have it with public schools. What I brought to the board was a resolution that would require that all schools that receive public funds follow the same rules and regulations for financial transparency, discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. So it was not about choice, and it was not about eliminating choice. It would not have eliminated choice.
Okay. Is the board all set?
Yes, thank you, Rich.
I would like to recenter this around the actual issue.
Okay, I think everybody got to speak once. I don't know if there's anything else to discuss. Mark, what do you want to discuss?
The issue that, everyone's talking about discrimination. The issue that's at hand is a constitutional issue. The Article 3 of the Vermont State Constitution says that we cannot be compelled to pay for religious activities. Right now, we are being forced to pay for religious activities because we have to pay for religious schools. The U.S. Constitution, by way of SCOTUS, says that we don't have a choice, that we have to do that. What the legislature is trying to do now is figure out a way to marry the two, so we are not in violation of the state constitution. One of the ways they are looking at doing that is restructuring the choice, which, by the way, even S66 and H258 would not have done anything to BBA or any of the 4 historic academies. They were all included. They were just being redefined as public schools so that they would be able to receive public tuition.
Okay. Folks, if we have nothing else, I think we've...
Can I just one quick thing on that? Because I don't know if we're reading different things, Mark, but everything I've been reading in regards to that's untrue, because Burr and Burton and the other 3 schools that would qualify as a public school have said we're not going to redefine ourselves, which means that if that structure comes to fruition and we can only choose from public schools, it does in fact eliminate that choice.
The legislation would redefine them as a public school. That wouldn't be a choice that they would make. They would still be perfectly eligible to receive public school dollars just the way they do now. That's the reason, the 4 items that Chad went through, the reason that those 4, for the most part, were chosen was to make sure that those 4 historic academies would remain in the system. And 2 of them, I believe, Rich, maybe you know more than me, I believe 2 of them, or maybe all 4 of them, were defined as public schools prior to 1991.
So I guess I'm just confused because, like, I mean, I've gotten emails from Mr. Tashjian, and like they're saying we're not interested in being a public school. So this would essentially just reformat. Like you are saying that you think that the state will say you don't get to be an independent school anymore because you qualify?
They would get to remain exactly as they are now, but they would get redefined
through statute
as a public school in order to make them eligible to get public funds. They would not have to change the way they are structured. They would not have to change the way that they do their fundraising or anything. All they would have, well, not all, they wouldn't have to do anything. They would still be able to receive money from the state, from the general fund.
So where
the entire...
Is there a place I can find this information and like read more about it? Because I feel confused by this information. Like I hear what you're saying, and if it's true, great, that sounds amazing. But I feel like the information that we've gotten sounds like that's not true.
A lot of money being put into the independent schools sending out information that's not true. Well, I'll send you links to the legislation itself, but it's a 2 or 3 page summary of the bill. Lists everything that it does and doesn't do for that matter.
Okay.
So let me just have a comment too then. So yeah, well, one of the reasons that this legislation is being moved forward is because, as Mark mentioned, public dollars can be used for religious schools, and then taking it a step further, those religious schools may discriminate. But also this bill will take money away from private schools that don't discriminate, because it's limiting the number of schools that the money can actually go to. So schools like the Long Trail and Mountain School, they won't be eligible for funds even though they don't discriminate. So just be careful when we use those terms, like Rich said before, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This has other consequences. Maybe BBA will be able to remain in the 4 if they decide they want to play along, and as Mark says, they'll still be eligible if they go along with it. But there are other schools that we send our kids to that will not be able to go to those schools even though they don't discriminate.
what SCOTUS has said is that
You can't, if you send money from a, what SCOTUS does say is if a state chooses to use public dollars for a private institution, you can't discriminate based on religion. So what this bill does is takes that out and just defines the 4 schools as independent, as public schools. But all the others that we're using that may not discriminate, those won't be eligible to receive public funds.
They may be able to.
Well, not according
They
to
have
what's
to
written now.
sign an
Currently,
attestation that says that they won't discriminate.
no. Well,
that's what's in the House, the new House bill, but that won't pass constitutional muster. But actually SCOTUS says that you can have, if you have choice, you have to pay. It doesn't say anything about paying to private schools. So if you have choice, which is why they're redefining.
If you pay public money for private institutions, you cannot discriminate based on religion.
What they say is if you have choice.
No. It says if you use public dollars for private institutions, you cannot discriminate based on religion.
No, because it doesn't, that makes no sense, Dwight.
It does make sense.
Because the town of Brattleboro doesn't pay tuition.
But that's what the SCOTUS is, that's what
No, but the state does. So that's why it's a statewide issue, not just an
that was the
individual town
argument
issue.
made before the state.
So I think some of the reasons that you have a lot of pushback from the original 4 academies is because they have also recognized that the other independent schools that have propped up to in choice areas, more rural areas, like as Stephanie has noted, we are in a mountain area, to be able to have those schools, it is a detriment to the entire. So it's not just about, well, let's save ourselves and, pardon the probably ill-timed pun, to hell with everybody else. But this is an important bit where these independent schools have really cemented themselves as a value to fill in geographical gaps, providing excellent education and the various choices. And
if we want to really be honest too, it's also, there's people, it's just like with Act 16, it was the gold towns, and I think it's something that not everybody has. So, I mean, that's a reason for an attack too. But I gotta tell you guys, it's 8:30. We've been at it for 3 hours. And whatever we decide here is not gonna.
No, but I appreciate the discussion.
And I think we have a really
Bob has
good.
his hand up.
Yeah, I think we have we're gonna have a discussion about it at town meeting. At the school district meeting where everybody can make their points.
Sure,
And,
I think Laura will be having some more meetings as well.
Yeah, I know Laura's trying to have more meetings, and again, the legislature's gonna be taking testimony. I think anybody who wants to testify, it's fairly easy if there's enough people. I testified in one thing where you were online and it was, you got your 3 or 4 minutes, and believe me, that goes really quick. So, but I'd like to, if we could, we've had a lot to do. We actually missed a very important thing that we were supposed to do, but we can't do it now. So we're probably gonna have to have a special meeting to talk about, the letters we've been getting. So why don't we, if everybody's good, everybody's got to say, we went through twice on public comment. I'd like to not take any more public comment.
No, Bob has his hand up.
Oh, Bob, I'm sorry.
Hey guys, sorry, I know you're trying to wrap up a couple quick things. Like I sent this to Rich, there are 2 videos that were created to help explain.
The VSBA board member guy?
Yeah, from Neil Adele. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah.
It might be helpful and for folks to understand things.
You know what? Hey, Bob, send them to us again, and we'll send them to Meredith. And hey, like Stephanie and everybody, you folks look at them. We'll attach them to the minutes. They are really good. They're a little bit long, but they're entertaining, and I think you guys will get a lot.
Be wary, VSBA has taken a position.
They're not
taken a position.
They are not VSBA videos.
Right.
I understand
they are done by a chair of.
Okay. Well, they're on the front page of the VSBA.
Who's a member of the VSBA.
And the chairman of the VSBA.
So he happens to be the president. But
so take it with.
They were not put out by the VSBA.
I think one of them is pretty just factual stuff. I don't think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're pretty clinical. But anyways, the other thing I just wanted to mention as you guys are wrapping up is that I know you didn't get a chance to kind of dig in further on the principal letters that you received and putting them off a conversation for 2 weeks.
We're not going to, Bob. We're going to have another meeting.
Well, I guess what I was just going to suggest was, and I know you maybe have other things to consider, but it might not be a bad idea to at least put some postings up. And then if you end up discussing it and doing something different at a future meeting, then you'll at least have some applicants in a pool somewhere.
I don't know, Bob, the problem is what are we going to advertise?
Well, what I would suggest is you advertise them both as is, and then if you decide to change it, you'll at least have pools of applicants. Just because you're advertising does not mean that you're required to hire them for those positions.
I think I'm gonna try to get a meeting before the end of the week. We have to deal with this. We can't let it go. So I think a few days. I agree with you. 2 weeks is way too long to wait.
All right.
Okay. Is everybody good? Is there a time the board can meet, even if it's a virtual meeting?
Yeah.
We got 72. Can we do something Thursday afternoon?
It's actually a better day for me, but yeah.
Yes.
Kate?
How long are we planning for?
Let's just plan an hour. It's gonna be a one-topic meeting.
Okay. I can do something before 3 p.m.
So like 2 to 3? Can you do 2 to 3? Or is that
That's a
too
good
early?
possibility.
Pardon?
Good possibility.
Can you? Mark?
23rd?
Is
Yeah,
that
23rd.
Thursday?
Yes.
23rd? Yeah, I can do 2 to 3.
Okay, I don't think Laura can, but if she can sneak out, just in case
She can do
there's,
12 to 1.
if there's, I was gonna say, can people do a lunch meeting?
Yeah, 12 to 1 on Thursday.
Yeah.
Sure.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Make that work.
You can come down to my office, I'll buy you a sandwich. Mark, can you do lunch?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, let's do this. Bob, did you go away? Bob left me.
No, he's there.
I'm still there.
Hey, can you see if she can warn, May can warn a noon to 1 meeting on Thursday and send out a link?
Yeah, I could.
I think Matt or
Or
Bill-
actually,
Bill
Matt,
usually
Matt,
make
could
the
you do
links.
that? And then, Bob, can you make that too?
Yeah, I'll absolutely be there.
Okay, and we'll see if Bill can, but Bob would be the one who would be working with them next, so. And
This
Bill's,
is Zoom only, Rich?
yeah, Zoom only. We're allowed to do that again.
That was a fast invite.
Well, we couldn't for a while, we had to have a live
no,
place.
Never mind. I
We
invited
couldn't just
myself.
have a Zoom strictly meeting, but they changed the law again.
Party for one.
There had to be a live place where people could come if they wanted to be live.
Inclusion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion? And folks, I'll put this discussion, we'll make sure we add this so that if there's more discussion and things go on, we'll allot a period of time for this discussion in the future meetings too.
So would you like a motion to adjourn or a motion to meet again on Thursday?
Make the motion to meet again and then we'll adjourn.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that the board reconvene on Thursday at noontime, Eastern Standard Time, to discuss a plan for moving forward with the path for the administration for our schools.
Do I have a second to that? So moved. Meredith, did you get all that?
Do we need a motion for that?
Well,
Can we repeat it one more time, please?
Yes, I made a motion to that the board reconvene on Thursday at noontime, Eastern Standard Time via Zoom to have a discussion on a plan for moving forward for the administrative positions for our 2 schools.
are you all good, Meredith?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a second to that?
Seconded.
Okay,
From Chad.
there's a second. Yes, Mark, I think it's good to make a motion because we're not gonna be able to get it in the local paper in time, so. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's a unanimous decision. It's nice having everybody live. Thank you, everybody.
It was, this is the first time.
Go ahead.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned.
8:32 p.m. Boom.